As the livestream numbers surged to new heights, Scott was absolutely elated. The moment that pushed the stream to its peak, Gengar's bold stand against Metagross in the final match, refusing to retreat and dragging its opponent into a double knockout with Destiny Bond. The chat had exploded, and Scott could almost hear the cha-ching of poke dollars with every comment pouring in. When was the last time the Battle Frontier got this kind of attention? It was everything he dreamed of. People from all over the world were expressing their desire to take on the frontier. Hundreds, possibly thousands. Yes, this is exactly the boom I've been waiting for. Scott turned to glance at the battlefield, humming a light tune. There had always been whispers that Johan's battles were devastating to the arenas. But after today's event, the truth was surprisingly mild. Aside from a few scratches and minor cracks, the battlefield was mostly intact. Nothing expensive. What a profitable day. 10 minutes later, asterisk. Gengar let out a huge yawn, munching lazily on a revived seed. Physically recovered, sure, but clearly still running low on energy. You really not going to drink this? Johan asked, holding up a bottle of energy root. Gengar instantly crossed its arms in an X and shook its head with dramatic flair. Absolutely not. No matter how tired it felt, it wasn't desperate enough to chug that bitter nightmare. That was Cub Foo's thing, making bitter tea and rambling about how one must taste bitterness to savor victory. Yeah, hard pass. Just then, Annabelle walked over, her expression calm and composed as always. Mr. Johan, she said, offering a small golden badge with the silhouette of the battle tower engraved on it. This is your symbol of ability. Congratulations. Gengar's eyes lit up as it snatched the badge, giving it a quick bite like a pirate testing gold. It tugged on Johan's sleeve excitedly. Greater than over equal to, less than over equal to. It's real gold. Johan laughed. You're such a cheapskate. Sure, the badge was valuable. But the real prize? The payout in battle points from clearing the tower. Thank you, he said, accepting it formally. Annabelle gave a gentle smile. Mr. Johan, if you have a moment, may we speak in private? Johan paused, curious. Sure. Later, at a quaint cafe nestled inside the battle frontier, Johan sat at a table with Steven, Flannery, Roxanne, and several of their Pokémon, including Gengar, Ninetales, and Jirachi. Gengar had slyly offered Jirachi a sip of coffee, which instantly turned into a disaster. Jirachi's face scrunched up, tears welling in its eyes. Inside Johan's head came the indignant telepathic cries. Gengar bad. Gengar mean. It took a slice of cake from Charadet and a plush toy Johan quickly purchased before the little mythical finally calmed down. Though it still glared at Gengar, while clutching the plushie like a grudge-bearing gremlin. Of all things, Mimikyu doll. Johan muttered, a little bewildered. Annabelle chuckled softly. What a precious little one. Once the Pokémon were preoccupied, Annabelle motioned for Johan to join her inside the cafe. They found a quiet corner booth. She wasted no time. Mr. Johan, about the attackers from last night. Do you know who they were? Johan tilted his head innocently. Just poachers, weren't they? He knew perfectly well they were from Team Aqua, but admitting that would lead to more questions than he wanted to answer. Annabelle nodded. That's what they claimed at first. But after a deeper investigation, we discovered they were part of a group known as Team Aqua. Team Aqua, Johan repeated, feigning curiosity. They're far from ordinary poachers, Annabelle said, her voice grave. Their goals are still unclear, but I felt it was important to warn you. They're dangerous. Dangerous? You have no idea. I also have another matter to discuss, she added, her tone shifting to something more formal. On behalf of the International Police, I'd like to offer you a position. Johan blinked. A position? Not as an agent. As a special advisor, she clarified. Your official rank would be superintendent. Johan's thoughts raced. Superintendent? Wasn't it the same rank Black held in the manga? He kept his expression neutral. I'm just a teacher, he said. I don't think I'm qualified for. Ordinary teachers don't nearly sweep frontier brains. Annabelle interrupted with a smirk. She continued, this role is mostly advisory, but it gives you access to our network. Our agents face dangerous missions. Many suffer long-term trauma. We could use your experience. Johan's gaze darkened slightly. Several of his own Pokémon, Ninetales and the NDD twins, had been victims of poaching. He wasn't faking his reaction. No decent trainer would ever tolerate poaching, he said firmly. Annabelle seized the moment. We're targeting a cross-regional poaching ring. Your help could make a real difference. Johan stayed quiet for a moment, weighing everything. Helping people, fighting poachers, gaining more access, could be useful. I'll need time to consider. Annabelle nodded. Of course. Here's my contact. Later, as Johan sat outside, a secure message popped onto his device. From Mahogany. Team Aqua had tried using rocket channels to dig into Johan's background. Those responsible were now indefinitely reassigned to the mines. Johan couldn't help but laugh. Being a rocket executive has its perks. With Team Aqua now hesitant to move, and the league doing its job, why not play both sides? Why not aim for the top of both worlds? He smirked at the idea, then quickly shook his head. It can't be that simple. Mr. Johan, shall we return to the hotel? Flannery asked as the group left the cafe. Back to rest. Johan looked at the setting sun and smiled. But the day's just getting started. Huh? Roxanne blinked. You're challenging another facility? Gengar's clearly worn out, Flannery pointed out. Kaka. Sigma. Lies. Johan patted Gengar's head. You've earned a break. But the rest of us still have energy, right? The Pokémon cheered, especially Jirachi, who floated up with sparkly eyes. Johan, keep going. Let's keep going. So, which facility should we hit next? Jirachi eagerly pointed toward the battle pike. The massive building shaped like a Seviper housed 140 rooms, all based on luck. Johan hesitated. Luck-based. Stephen gave him a skeptical look. You sure about this? Johan glanced at Jirachi, then grinned. With your serene grace, maybe our luck's not so bad. He raised his fist. All right, team. Let's test our luck. Wait, what? Another stream? Didn't he already finish the battle tower? What's he doing now? How's my boy Gengar? Is he even healed up? Hold on. Is that the battle pike? Is Johan seriously trying to clear 2 frontier facilities in one day? Man's out here speedrunning the entire battle frontier. The second Johan surprise stream, Johan teaches you how to conquer the battle frontier, went live. Chat exploded. Veteran players and newbies alike swarmed the channel. While a few already knew the ins and outs of the facilities, most were clueless. To help, Scott quickly pinned an overview of the battle pike rules. 140 rooms, random events, status conditions, wild battles, traps, or blessings. All luck. 140 rooms of RNG. Johan's got guts. I heard someone once got stuck in there for a month. Who lied to Johan about his luck stat? Chaos ensued in the comments. At the entrance of the battle pike, a towering structure shaped like a Seviper's gaping maw, Johan stood unfazed by the storm of online commentary. He smirked, hands in his coat pockets. Time to witness the overwhelming luck of a Johan family. And with that, he stepped into the jaws of fate. The first chamber was empty. In front of him, 3 doors. No hints, just a gamble. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, Emerald had to pass through 139 rooms before reaching the final one. Johan wasn't about to let that happen. Hakuryu, your turn, he said to his Dragonair. Pick a door. Pure instinct. Dragonair blinked and pointed with its tail. Johan didn't follow. Instead, he rubbed his chin. All right, that rules out one option. Dragonair, _. Next, he turned to Jirachi, speaking through their aura link. Okay, it's your turn. 2 left. Go with your gut. Jirachi's eyes sparkled. This one. Without hesitation, Johan walked through the chosen door. It was empty, no battle, no trap, no status conditions. Chat lost it. Wait, did he just reverse engineer the RNG? Using Dragonair as a decoy guesser? Is it even legal? Technically, it's not against the rules. It's just next-level galaxy brain. This man isn't cheating. He's just breaking the meta. Johan ignored the chatter, muttering to himself. This is child's play. If I really wanted, Gengar could just phase through and find the frontier brain directly. Which gave him an idea. Turning to the camera for the first time, Johan grinned. Let's try another method. Kids, don't try this at home. Gengar, he called. Kaka. Gengar yawned, emerging from his shadow. Check the next room. Let me know if it's clear. Kaka. Gengar vanished through the wall and returned moments later, holding a potion. Kaka. Translation. Someone's in there, but I stole this while they weren't looking. The chat collectively broke. Did Gengar just commit robbery on stream? 100% chaotic evil. Teacher Johan is now Professor Crime. Someone call Officer Jenny. Scott, clearly panicked, turned to Johan. We might need to... Of course, I don't recommend this method, Johan said with a wink. Right, Mr. Scott? Scott's soul visibly left his body. Why, yeah. Updating the rules now. The chat roared. Rule change midstream? This man's trolling and teaching at the same time. He's not just a battler. He's a rule maker now. Even Steven, Flannery, and Roxanne were watching and laughing. That's so Johan, Flannery grinned. Roxanne nodded. Chaotic, clever, and surprisingly down-to-earth. Far within the battle pike, the frontier brain herself, Lucy, the enigmatic queen of the pipes, watched the stream with a raised brow. This guy is something else. With Dragonair and Jirachi's help, Johan continued cruising through the battle pike. He avoided traps, bypassed status conditions, and collected helpful items, including berries and potions meant for less lucky challengers. What usually took hours of trial and error took Johan less than one. At the final room, Johan stepped in to find Lucy waiting. If you want the symbol, she said coolly, you'll have to earn it. Johan nodded. He knew her style. Status effects, stall tactics, substitute, toxic, the whole defensive playbook. Chat immediately lit up. Lucy's got her classic toxic stall ready. But Johan's not the kind of guy you stall out. Queen of Pipes? Nah, she's about to get steamrolled. The battle began. Lucy sent out Shuckle, a small, odd Pokemon with absurd defenses and annoying strategies. Shuckle, the mold Pokemon, Rotom Dex chimed in. Bug/rock type. Commonly underestimated. Defense and special defense are among the highest of all Pokemon. Johan didn't flinch. He already had his counter ready. Tinkaton, let's go. The pink-haired steel/fairy type walked onto the field, dragging a hammer twice its size, slamming it into the ground with a confident smirk. Cha-cha. Sigh. Lucy opened with Power Split, evening out Shuckle's low attack with Tinkaton's high one. Shuckle, Power Split. An energy beam reached out, but Johan was quicker. Tinkaton, make a rock. Now. Tinkaton raised its hammer and slammed it into the arena floor, ripping up part of the battlefield as a makeshift shield. Did she just create a rock? That's not a move. That's battlefield sabotage. Someone nerfed this team. Even Lucy looked stunned. Gigaton hammer. Johan called. Tinkaton burst from cover and swung. Lucy tried to react. Protect. Too late. The force shattered the barrier and sent Shuckle tumbling across the field. When the dust cleared, the battlefield was cracked and torn, and Shuckle lay, fainted in the corner. Scott stared pale. Didn't we just say Johan wasn't destructive? Standing tall in the rubble, Johan grinned at Lucy. Looks like I passed the first test.
Hey, everyone. If you enjoy my quantum audiobooks, you can support me by becoming a Patreon member. Your support helps me keep creating, and you'll get exclusive perks. You can also access my audiobooks directly through Google Drive. Check out the link in the description. Now, let's get started.
Go, Gyarados! A flash of red light erupted as the battlefield quaked under the appearance of Gyarados. Its blue scales glistened with menace as it reared its colossal frame, unleashing an earth-shaking roar. Roar! Considering that Johan had deployed Tinkaton, a Steel-type Pokemon, Lucy opted against her signature Seviper. Now was the time for her Gyarados to shine. Standing at nearly 6.5 meters tall, Gyarados' sheer size exuded an aura of oppression. The very sight of it made the livestream audience hold their breaths. This was the effect of Gyarados' Intimidate ability, which lowered the attack stat of opposing Pokemon by unnerving them. Facing the Titanic Serpent, Tinkaton's diminutive figure appeared almost laughable in comparison. Yet, Tinkaton remained utterly composed. In fact, it even bared its teeth in a cheeky grin, countering Gyarados' intimidation with a sass all its own. Cha! Asterisk. Big guy, don't get cocky. Want to get smashed. While other Pokemon might have been shaken by the intimidate, Tinkaton shrugged it off. After all, Johan's Tinkaton had already stared down fiercer Pokemon. Compared to Lance's infamous red Gyarados, this one wasn't nearly as terrifying. And the result back then? It smashed the red menace to pieces with a single swing. Lucy raised an eyebrow. Did Intimidate not work? It said that truly strong-willed Pokemon can resist the effects of Intimidate. Steven remarked from the sidelines, watching with amusement. But the truth? Tinkaton simply didn't feel threatened. Flannery smirked, noting the flood of unfair comments in the livestream chat. Unfair? Then you must be new here. This is how Johan's Pokemon operate. The battle resumed. Tinkaton used Sword's Dance. Johan seized the chance to boost first, knowing full well what Lucy's next move would be. Sure enough, Lucy mirrored him. Gyarados' Dragon Dance. Roar. Gyarados let loose a deafening roar as its power and speed surged. It whipped its tail, sending chunks of debris flying. For Gyarados, Dragon Dance was practically a must-have. Lucy had always been a straightforward attacker, a strategy that was no secret to Johan. Likewise, Tinkaton also favored pure, unrelenting aggression. Soon, both Pokemon had completed their respective boosts. With Gyarados' speed heightened by Dragon Dance, it was now faster than Tinkaton. Gyarados' Hydro Pump. Lucy wasted no time launching a ferocious attack. A torrent of water shot toward Tinkaton with incredible force. But to land such a hit, did Gyarados think it was a Dragonair? Tinkaton let out a mocking laugh and nimbly dodged to the side. Boom! The Hydro Pump missed its mark, slamming into the ground instead and carving a deep groove in the arena. Keep sweeping it across. Lucy commanded. Roar! The water beam swiveled toward Tinkaton's new position. But Johan's Pokemon was prepared. Tinkaton planted its hammer firmly into the ground and began spinning it at incredible speed, generating a gust of wind that scattered the water. While the redirected attack lost most of its force, Lucy wasn't discouraged. Her plan was coming together. Then, to everyone's shock, Tinkaton hurled its hammer at Gyarados with astounding precision. Thud! The massive impact staggered Gyarados, sending it reeling. Tinkaton seized the opportunity to close the gap. Gyarados flail. Suddenly, Gyarados' body ignited with fierce flames. Flail, a fire-type move with 75 base power. However, if the preceding attack missed, the move's power doubled to a staggering 150. Lucy grinned. Missing with Hydro Pump had been part of her plan. Now, Tinkaton, Stone Edge. Cha! Tinkaton slammed its hammer into the ground, summoning jagged stone spires that erupted beneath Gyarados. The combined attack lifted Gyarados into the air before slamming it back down into the arena. The fiery energy dissipated from Gyarados' body as it collapsed, unconscious. Gyarados is unable to battle, the referee announced. Cha! Tinkaton stood amidst the battlefield rubble, hefting its hammer triumphantly. Bring on the next challenger. Awesome. Tinkaton is so cute, yet so brutal. But man, it's expensive on arenas. Honestly, this match is so satisfying. Lucy hesitated before throwing her final Pokeball. A hulking steel serpent emerged. Onyx, Steelix, the Iron Snake Pokemon. A steel and ground type, it is the evolved form of Onyx. Its body is said to be harder than any known metal. The spectators gasped at Steelix's sheer size. It dwarfed even Gyarados. Scott, watching the already devastated battlefield, began to sweat. How much worse could this arena get? Go ahead, he muttered under his breath. It's ruined anyway. Might as well finish the job. Cha! Tinkaton's eyes sparkled at the sight of Steelix, as if it had found buried treasure. Oh no, Roxanne muttered, massaging her temples. Sending out a steel type against Tinkaton, Flannery snickered. Bold move. While Steelix had immense defensive stats, it wasn't ready for the chaos that was Tinkaton. Steelix, Iron Defense. Steelix's metallic sheen intensified as it reinforced its body, making it almost impenetrable. But to Johan's Tinkaton, this was merely a challenge. Use Brick Break. Tinkaton dashed forward, hammer raised high, and brought it down with explosive force. Crack! Steelix's body cracked under the pressure, shocking Lucy. Steelix, shake it off, and body slam. Steelix roared and launched itself at Tinkaton. Johan narrowed his eyes. Tinkaton, dodge it! At the last moment, Tinkaton sidestepped Steelix's attack, letting it crash harmlessly into the ground. Now came the real show. Tinkaton grabbed its tail. Cha! Tinkaton latched onto Steelix's tail with both hands. What's it doing? Tinkaton, seismic toss. To everyone's disbelief, Tinkaton began to spin Steelix around like a lasso. Boom! 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 Steelix crashed into the ground repeatedly, leaving craters in its wake. The livestream chat erupted in chaos. Steelix got tossed. By that tiny thing. That's it. I'm done. Tinkaton's the GOAT. This is the most ridiculous battle I've ever seen. Finally, Steelix's massive body lay limp. It had fainted, utterly defeated. Tinkaton wiped its hands on its hammer and glanced back at Johan, its expression saying, "Who's next?" Tinkaton's spectacular display of spinning and smashing Steelix left the audience in awe. It was the very definition of brutal elegance. People had seen hammers swung, rocks thrown, but tossing a Steelix like a toy? That was a first. With this triumph, Johan received the luck symbol from Lucy, marking his conquest of the battle pike. From this day forth, who would dare claim Johan wasn't a luck god? Lucy, as always, didn't have much to say. She simply offered her congratulations and left the stage quickly. But no one's feelings about the match were as mixed as Scott's. He had braced himself for some arena damage. That was par for the course with Johan's battles. What he hadn't prepared for was the utter destruction of the battle pike as a facility. Cracked walls, a ceiling on the brink of collapse, and a floor that looked like it had survived an earthquake. Only now did Scott truly understand the saying, reputation is earned. Johan's reputation as the battlefield wrecker wasn't just talk. Still, the surge in popularity was undeniable. The livestream had brought countless eyes to the battle frontier. As Tinkaton strutted out of the battle pike with its hammer slung over its shoulder, proudly wearing the luck symbol, the audience erupted into cheers. Night had fallen by the time Johan and his group left. Rather than checking into a hotel, Stephen invited the group to stay at a luxury resort owned by the Devon Corporation in the battle frontier. It wasn't a typical resort. It featured beautifully preserved natural environments alongside spacious, standalone wooden cabins. The setup allowed guests to enjoy the outdoors while still sleeping comfortably indoors. As night fell, Johan, his Pokémon, and the others gathered around a campfire outside their cabin. The warm glow of the fire painted their faces orange as they chatted beneath the glimmering night sky. "You've been holding out on us," Stephen, Flannery grumbled playfully. "This place is amazing." Stephen rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "I only found out about this resort today. My father saw Johan's stream earlier and mentioned it." "Your dad watches the stream?" Roxanne asked, raising an eyebrow. Stephen nodded with a grin. "He's a big fan of Johan's. He even sent 50 Dragonite gifts in the chat earlier." Johan winced. 50 Dragonite gifts? Why not just transfer that money to him directly? After all, the livestream earnings went to Scott, not him. Flannery chuckled to herself. "Maybe I should convince Grandpa to send a few gifts too. That way, Johan won't accidentally destroy Lavaridge Gym when he visits." Johan, meanwhile, was busy preparing snacks over the campfire. With Flannery's Torkoal providing the perfect level of heat, the Pokémon gathered eagerly around him. Pokémon-style tea time was in full swing. The sound of sizzling food filled the air. "All right, it's ready." Johan began handing out snacks to his team, making sure each Pokémon got their share. "Johan, delicious. Johan, delicious." Jirachi floated in circles, its ribbons twirling with joy as it munched on its treat. Even Torkoal, who was usually quite stoic, let out a contented hum when Johan handed it a special portion. Seeing her Torkoal so happy, Flannery sighed. Johan, you're so good to every Pokémon. No wonder they all adore you. It's not just Pokémon, Steven chimed in with a smile. People admire him too. After dinner, Johan leaned back against the Alolan Ninetales, gazing at the starry sky. The Pokémon played together in the yard. Higher. Throw me higher. Jirachi's giggles filled the air as Tinkaton gleefully tossed it higher and higher into the sky, its hammer lying momentarily forgotten on the ground. Meanwhile, Gengar was off in the corner, sipping tea brewed with energy roots and regaling the other Pokémon with exaggerated stories. Kaka. Back when the world was young. The great Gengar. It had a natural flair for storytelling, and even the most serious Pokémon, like Metagross and Agron, were drawn in. The night was filled with laughter, warmth, and camaraderie, echoing through the resort as the group rested under the ancient comet's glow. On the third day of the comet's appearance, Johan awoke with a start. A suffocating sensation had jolted him awake. When he reached up, he realized Jirachi's ribbon had somehow ended up draped over his face. Taking a deep breath, he chuckled softly. Phew! For a second, I thought a Snorlax had rolled onto me. Looking up, he noticed Gengar snoozing contentedly on the ceiling. Guess it slept well, he thought, nodding in approval. By the time he got up, the Pokémon were already raring to go. Johan, what are we playing today? Jirachi, who had been unusually well-behaved last night, hovered around him excitedly. We've still got a lot of facilities left to clear, Johan mused as he sipped his coffee. Yesterday, he had conquered the Battle Tower and the Battle Pike. Now, only the Battle Palace, Arena, Dome, Factory, and Pyramid remained. Not the Pyramid, he muttered to himself. With Brandon guarding it, the Pyramid was the one facility he had no confidence in clearing. The others, however, were fair game. After some deliberation, Johan made his decision. We'll tackle the Battle Dome today. The announcement made Jirachi spin with joy, its ribbons trailing in the air. Yay! Battle Dome. Let's go. The most dashing duel. News spread quickly. By the time Johan arrived at the Battle Dome, Scott was already there, accompanied by a full filming crew. Johan's guide to the Battle Frontier was live once again. Another early stream, huh? Good morning, Johan. Late start today? You're making up for it by clearing 2 facilities, right? Johan chuckled at the teasing comments in the chat. Morning, everyone, he greeted casually. Morning. Pay your fines for being late. Is that the Battle Dome? OMG, I'm here in person. Johan looks even more handsome in real life. How much for a selfie, mate? Let's split the profit. Johan couldn't help but laugh. Viewers will be viewers, no matter the world. Scott, as expected, had outdone himself. The Battle Dome was packed to capacity, with fans eager to watch Johan's next challenge. Inside the opulent arena, cheers erupted as Johan stepped onto the battlefield. He could feel the energy in the air. Most of these people weren't here for the Battle Dome. They were here for him. Across the battlefield, a temporary stage had been set up. Standing atop, it was the Dome Ace, Tucker, in all his flamboyant glory. Dressed in a dazzling purple outfit with elaborate twin ponytails, Tucker twirled dramatically, soaking in the crowd's adoration. Listen to those cheers, Johan. Tucker called out, his voice dripping with theatrics. Today, we're about to witness the ultimate showdown, the duel between the most dashing trainers in the Pokémon world. Tucker leaped down from the elevated stage, with spotlights illuminating his every move. Welcome, my beautiful audience, to the Battle Dome. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Tucker, without prompting, Johan's Pokeball opened on its own, and Kubfu stood in front of him, its expression serious and fists flying. Coo! Foul fiend. Johan face-bombed, recalling Kubfu. It's not your turn yet. Amid the roaring applause, Tucker landed on the battlefield, arms outstretched, and exclaimed with unabashed self-admiration. Tonight, my friends, I invite you all to bask in the beauty of battle. The audience responded with even louder cheers. Much of the cheering came from middle-aged women, to Johan's amusement. Sitting in the audience, Flannery and the others exchanged surprised glances. Wait, So not everyone's here just to see Johan battle? Of course not, Stephen replied. Tucker is a popular star in his own right. Before Johan arrived, the Battle Frontier's revenue depended heavily on Tucker's popularity. This was why Scott was confident he could pack the arena overnight. Tucker had his own fan base. I just don't get it, Roxanne muttered, blushing slightly at Tucker's flamboyant movements. Even Stephen and Flannery couldn't help but nod in agreement. Meanwhile, Jirachi's eyes sparkled with excitement as it floated around Johan. Johan, I'm ready. Tucker struck another exaggerated pose, signaling the start of the battle. Now, prepare for tonight's main event. A fusion of fire and water. With a flourish, he released 2 Pokeballs. Out came Swampert and Arcanine. Swampert, the mudfish Pokemon, a water/ground type, and the final evolution of Mudkip. Arcanine, the legendary Pokemon, a fire type and the evolved form of Growlithe. Johan recognized this duo as Tucker's signature combination. His infamous fusion of fire and water strategy was on full display. Johan avoided meeting Tucker's gaze. Something about Tucker's over-the-top behavior made him secondhand embarrassed. Instead, he focused on countering. Swampert and Arcanine, huh? Water and fire. Johan smirked as he tossed 2 Pokeballs of his own. Out came Dragonair and Charadet. While Swampert and Arcanine had excellent synergy, Johan opted to rely on pure firepower and teamwork, confident in his partner's abilities. Charadet was making its formal battle debut, and Johan had high hopes. As for Dragonair, it was the picture of reliability. Let the battle begin. Arcanine, with a thunderous roar, Arcanine unleashed its Intimidate ability, lowering Charadet and Dragonair's attack power. The referee's signal echoed across the arena, officially starting the fight. Dragon Dance, Dragonair. Johan called out. Dragonair's delicate wings extended, shimmering as it gracefully spun through the air, increasing its attack and speed. Tucker, however, wasted no time. Arcanine Extreme Speed, Swampert Earthquake. Arcanine became a blur of motion, targeting Dragonair, while Swampert slammed its fists into the ground, triggering a massive tremor aimed at Charadet. Charadet grabbed Dragonair's tail. Johan's tone was calm, but his body was tense. Unbeknownst to the others, Charadet's fiery determination was resonating with Johan's aura, amplifying his connection to the battle. Charadet followed his command without hesitation, latching onto Dragonair's tail as the serpent Pokemon deftly avoided the tremors. Its fiery crest glowed brighter, its flames responding to its own growing excitement. Flamethrower, Charadet. With a deep breath, Charadet unleashed a powerful stream of flames, aimed at the oncoming Arcanine. Boom! The fire collided midair with Arcanine's charge, forcing the legendary Pokemon to retreat momentarily. Such intensity, that's no ordinary flamethrower. Johan's Charadet must be running on pure adrenaline. Who needs strategy when you can have this much firepower? The battle raged on. Swampert attempted to support with Water Pulse, while Arcanine launched a ferocious Flare Blitz, each attack clashing against Dragonair and Charadet's coordinated counters. Eventually, both sides paused, eyeing each other across the battlefield. Tucker smirked. Arcanine, overheat. Swampert, hydro pump. This is it. Fire and water united. Johan met Tucker's enthusiasm with a grin of his own. Dragonair, helping hand. Charadet, overheat. Dragonair glowed, channeling energy into Charadet. Goka, Gioke. Charadet's flames roared to life, engulfing its body as it braced for its strongest attack yet. Both sides unleashed their attacks simultaneously. The arena was bathed in blinding light as fire and water collided, creating a superheated steam explosion that enveloped the battlefield. When the dust settled, Swampert and Arcanine lay unconscious amidst the smoldering remains of the arena. Charadet stood victorious, its charred body still radiating faint embers. The audience erupted into applause. Burn it all, Charadet. That was a battle for the ages. Tucker, though scorched and disheveled, laughed heartily. Well done, Johan. Take this tactic symbol as proof of your victory. The battle ended with both trainers exchanging a nod of respect as the crowd roared in approval. Sinnoh region. Whoa, that Charadet flames are incredible. Riley reclined casually on the couch, one arm draped over the backrest, his expression alight with excitement. He'd heard plenty about Johan, especially from Cynthia and Faulkner during their conversations, where Johan's battles were a frequent topic of discussion. Riley had even caught some of Johan's performances during the Indigo League broadcasts. Man, when's he coming to Sinnoh? I'd love to have a battle with him. Riley smacked his lips, speaking as if to himself. Charadet's fiery display had ignited his enthusiasm. He envisioned a fierce clash with Johan, one where their battle would serve as a test of resolve and strength, full of heart-pounding action. From a single-seater sofa nearby, Lucian calmly closed his book, adjusted his glasses, and threw a discreet glance towards Cynthia, seated at the other end of the couch. Riley, you really don't read the room, do you? Haven't you noticed how Cynthia's smile deepens every time you mention challenging Johan? But Riley had always been laser-focused on battles, oblivious to trivial matters like that. What he also hadn't realized was that Johan wasn't just any trainer. He was a mentor to an extraordinary student and had strong ties with Kanto's Lance, Lorelei, and Cynthia herself. All right, I've decided. Riley sprang to his feet. I'm heading to our battle frontier. Let's see who can clear it faster, Johan or me. Hands in his pockets, he laughed with unmistakable self-satisfaction at his self-declared competition with Johan. Roar! Cynthia's Garchomp snorted twin puffs of white air, giving Riley a disdainful side-eye. Hey, Afro guy, why not spar with me first? Though Riley couldn't understand Garchomp's growling words, he'd fought Cynthia often enough to recognize that challenging look in her Pokemon's eyes. His own eyes lit up. Garchomp, are you offering to help me train? Lucian sighed and rubbed his forehead. You can't read Cynthia's expressions, fine. But even Garchomp's simmering rage and vengeful glare go right over your head? Garchomp grinned, its teeth gleaming dangerously. Roar! It nodded firmly. Perfect. Watching Johan speed runs through the battle frontier had left it itching for action, and now Riley had practically volunteered to be its personal punching bag. What great guy. Awesome. Ha ha ha. Riley burst into laughter. Once I've cleared the battle frontier, I'll challenge the Elite Four. It's my turn to claim the title. He marched outside with a swagger, radiating overconfidence. 10 minutes later, Aaron strolled past the garden outside and spotted Riley hanging from a tree. Scratching his head, he asked, Hey, Riley, practicing tree climbing again? Hoenn region, battle frontier. After lunch, Charadet gleefully accepted a cup of energy root tea from Kubfu. Following Kubfu's example, it sipped delicately. Bitterness exploded in its mouth. Charadet scrunched its face in a comical grimace. Coo. Kubfu patted Charadet's shoulder in an elder, sibling-like gesture, taking another sip. You'll get used to it, it seemed to say. Ka. Gengar, lounging nearby, quipped. You don't get used to it. It just numbs your taste buds after a while. Hearing this, Charadet shrank back. Then an idea struck. Its eyes lit up as it fished out a lump of charcoal. Taking a hearty bite, it crunched off some bits before sipping the tea again. Its face relaxed into a look of satisfaction. Goka, yep, that hit the spot. Johan couldn't help but marvel. Using charcoal as a side dish for energy root tea? Only Charadet could come up with that. Meanwhile, Ninetales, Tinkaton, and Dragonair gathered at a table, happily munching on treats and energy cubes. Energy root tea? Not a chance. Flannery, watching the scene unfold, rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Teacher, did you seriously have me buy charcoal as food for Charadet? Why not? Flannery was at a loss for words, question marks practically floating above her head. Charcoal was supposed to boost fire-type moves, not be eaten. When did charcoal become a snack? Johan gave a sheepish laugh. Well, it's a fire-type Pokemon, so isn't eating charcoal reasonable? Charadet, essentially being a living chunk of charcoal itself, seemed to think so. That afternoon, the group headed to the battle arena, the fourth facility in Johan's Battle Frontier Challenge. The arena resembled a traditional dojo, designed to test both trainers and their Pokémon. Victors were awarded the Guts symbol. The battle arena emphasized three attributes: heart, skill, and body, continuous attacks, critical hits, and remaining stamina, respectively. Points, rather than knockouts, determined the winner. Kubfu, who entered the arena with Johan, gazed at the stone-paved courtyard where rows of trainees practiced their punches. The sight reminded it of Master Mustard's dojo back on the Isle of Armor. Kubfu clenched its fists. It had grown and improved so much since leaving the Isle. It wondered if the clever, sweet-talking wild Pokémon back there missed it. Johan. As soon as they stepped inside, the battle arena's leader, Greta, came rushing out to greet them. Her small fists clenched in excitement, and she bowed deeply. "Teacher Johan, it's an honor to finally meet you." Johan was taken aback. "Wait, what? Teacher?" Greta stood straight, her expression both eager and reverent. "I've been waiting for this chance to learn from you." Johan realized that Greta, like many others, must have been inspired by his reputation. Still, wasn't this supposed to be a challenge? "I'm here to battle, not to teach," Johan clarified. "Oh," Greta nodded but called out to her students. "Everyone, clear the courtyard. Teacher Johan is here to demonstrate his techniques." "What?" Johan sighed. He'd somehow gained a reputation as a martial arts mentor among trainers. "Oh well," he thought, signaling to Kubfu. "Let's give him a little shock, Kubfu." "Ku." Kubfu stepped forward, its determination shining through. It was ready to show them all what a true master in training could do. Kubfu versus Heracross. Heracross, renowned as one of the strongest bug-type Pokémon, could easily rank in the top 3 for raw power among its kind. While victory wasn't the sole determinant of success in the battle arena, as high enough scores in the other 2 categories could still lead to passing the trial. Losing yet passing could give off the wrong impression. And with so many people watching, winning decisively was the better way to dispel any doubts about fairness. This battle wasn't just about winning, it was also about showcasing skill. As the 2 trainers and their Pokémon prepared themselves, the apprentice referee raised their voice. "Battle begin." The referee's announcement had barely echoed when Heracross, Aerial Ace, Kubfu, Aerial Ace. Both trainers called out at almost the same time, their commands overlapping. For a brief moment, they paused, exchanged glances, and smiled knowingly at each other. In the battle arena, one of the scoring criteria, technique, awarded higher points for moves that hit critically or were super effective. Even a successful hit, even without a critical, would score some points. For Kubfu, a fighting type weak to flying moves, and Heracross, doubly weak to flying Aerial Ace, known for its guaranteed accuracy, was the ideal choice. Heracross's back carapace opened, revealing gossamer wings that buzzed as it launched itself forward, its horn cutting through the air. At the same time, Kubfu tightened its headband-like fur and leaped forward, meeting Heracross head-on. Boom! Heracross's horn collided with Kubfu's fist, and the impact sent both Pokémon skidding back. This feels more like a battle between flying types than fighting types. Who doesn't know Aerial Ace at this point? Is this some kind of martial artist telepathy? For both Pokémon, this initial clash was more of a test, a way to gauge their opponent's strength. The true heart and skill of the battle would come next. Heracross, close combat. Greta, the battle arena leader, called out with a commanding gesture. Heracross buzzed its wings again, its eyes gleaming with determination. Its red-tinged horn surged forward, aiming straight for Kubfu's chest. But Kubfu, unfazed, sidestepped nimbly, letting Heracross's horn miss by a narrow margin. As Heracross stumbled slightly, Kubfu crouched and aimed a sharp strike at Heracross's elbow joint. The moment Kubfu's fist landed, it sensed Heracross subtly adjust its stance, absorbing the blow and retreating just enough to prepare its next move. This Heracross isn't bad at all, Kubfu thought, a hint of surprise flickering in its eyes. Heracross, too, was caught off guard. This little bear, its fighting skills are extraordinary. Heracross retaliated by swinging its head downward, aiming to slam Kubfu with its horn, while simultaneously bringing its left arm upward like a hammer. Kubfu, undeterred, shifted its stance, twisting its body sideways. It countered with a shoulder block aimed at Heracross's right arm joint. Heracross, sensing danger, rolled to the left and attempted a sweeping kick. But Kubfu, anticipating the move, performed a backflip to dodge. Greta watched the exchange with wide eyes. These moves, Heracross's close combat, was completely neutralized by Kubfu. Though the sound of impacts filled the air, Greta could tell none of Heracross's strikes had truly landed. So this is one of Johan's Pokémon. No wonder he's known as a martial arts master. The battle arena trainees were equally stunned. Heracross and Kubfu's clash of techniques was an exhilarating spectacle. This little bear just nullified Heracross's close combat. I can't follow everything they're doing, but it's incredible to watch. This is peak martial artistry. If Tinkaton embodied raw power and Charadet represented fiery passion, then Kubfu showcased the pinnacle of combat technique. Kubfu stood confidently, its face calm. But through their shared aura connection, Johan could sense Kubfu's nerves. Though it held its ground, it knew one misstep could mean taking the full brunt of Heracross's close combat. Johan's expression turned slightly amused. Ahem, Kubfu says. Ku, Sigma, watch closely. I'm only showing this once. In the next instant, Kubfu leaped forward, its body radiating red energy. Close combat. Compared to Heracross's earlier assault, Kubfu's close combat seemed lighter, swifter, and far more precise. Bam! Heracross tried to block, but Kubfu anticipated the move. It slid under Heracross with a sudden feint and landed behind it. Then came a series of seamless attacks. Sweeping kick, hook punch, low lunge, elbow strike, knee strike, rolling flip, leg lock. Kubfu's unrelenting onslaught overwhelmed Heracross. At first, Heracross managed to counter a few moves. But as the attacks grew faster and stronger, it could no longer keep up. To Heracross, Kubfu's relentless strikes felt like crashing waves, each more powerful than the last. Wham! Heracross was flung into the air before crashing to the ground. With Kubfu's unyielding flurry of strikes, the heart category score maxed out. Is this the art of rapid strikes? Greta gasped. Johan's Kubfu had clearly mastered techniques passed down by Mustard, the Isle of Armor's legendary master. Heracross, show your determination. Get back up. Herea. Heracross groaned, shakily pushing itself off the ground. Greta grinned triumphantly. Mega Horn. Hera. Heracross charged forward, its horn glowing with immense power. Kubfu's eyes lit up with excitement. Planting its feet firmly, it spread its arms wide, summoning a powerful aura. Johan raised an eyebrow. Focus energy? Kubfu clearly wanted to test its mettle in a head-on clash. All right, Kubfu, focus punch. Both Pokémon gathered their strength, Heracross's horn radiating green energy, Kubfu's fists glowing white-hot. Boom! The collision sent shock waves rippling through the arena, even knocking over a few of Greta's trainees. When the dust cleared, Heracross lay unconscious on the ground, and the critical hit category was maxed out. Heracross is unable to battle. In all categories, heart, skill, and body, Kubfu is the winner. Greta was momentarily stunned before bursting into applause. That was amazing. She rushed over to Johan and Kubfu, her admiration plain to see. Johan gave a modest smile. Greta couldn't help but ask, can Kubfu combine rapid strikes and single-strike techniques? Johan glanced at Kubfu, who stood tall and serious. For now, not quite. Kubfu wasn't yet able to blend both styles while awake. But with enough training, it could master such a feat even without entering its calmest state during sleep. As Greta handed over the guts symbol, she remarked, even without its strongest form, Kubfu is incredible. With 4 Battle Frontier symbols now in his possession, Johan couldn't help but reflect. Am I already strong enough to trounce ordinary gym leaders? If so, maybe it's time to set my sights on the Elite Four, or even a Battle Frontier head as strong as them. Discussions about the Battle Frontier were still trending online. Charcadet's flamethrower that melted the battlefield and Kubfu's display of masterful combat technique were the hottest topics among the fanbase. Familiar names added fuel to the fire, amplifying the hype even further. Bruno. Indeed, Johan is a highly skilled martial artist. If I were to face him, I wouldn't be confident of winning. Mustard. Little Johan is amazing. Kubfu has improved so much. Makes this old man want a rematch to redeem some dignity, haha. Professor Oak. Judging by the temperature of that flamethrower, it likely exceeded 2,000 degrees Celsius. Such terrifying passion. As Johan scrolled through these comments on his phone that evening, his expression turned both amused and slightly awkward. Have you all been bribed by Scott? From just these comments, Johan felt as if people might actually believe he could challenge a regional champion on his own. In fact, someone had already taken this seriously, Archie's right-hand man, Shelley. When Shelley saw the statements by Bruno and Mustard, he broke out in a cold sweat. Good thing I ran away in time, Shelley thought, relieved. Who would have thought this seemingly skinny, mild-mannered man was also a top-tier martial artist? A true hidden master. For Shelley, the realization explained Johan's incredible skill in wild Pokémon battles. People like him probably trained by wrestling Macamp or grappling Steelix daily. The next day marked the 4th day since Jirachi's awakening and Johan's 3rd day in the Battle Frontier. This time, he made an unexpected decision. Split up his team. He planned to simultaneously challenge the Battle Palace and the Battle Factory. The Battle Palace had a peculiar rule. Trainers could not give commands to their Pokémon during battles. They could only send out 3 Pokémon and let them fight on their own instincts and capabilities. No trainer involvement? What's even the point of battling? For Johan, this felt like a lose-lose situation. Lose, and the Pokémon might lose confidence in their trainer. Win, and the trainer feels irrelevant. Luckily, Johan was already used to this kind of arrangement. His Pokémon were more than capable of handling battles independently. They often organized their own midnight missions to scavenge for food, after all. He entrusted this mission to his Ghost Bear Hammer trio, Gengar, Tinkaton, and Kubfu. Kaka. Undersir. Gengar, wearing a pair of sunglasses, waved its hand dramatically and marched toward the Battle Palace. Behind it, Tinkaton followed with its oversized hammer slung over its shoulder, its twin pigtails bouncing with each step. Kubfu, wearing an unusually serious expression, saluted Johan solemnly. To Kubfu, this was a critical mission, proof of their trainer's trust. I shall slay the enemy, claim their symbol, and return victorious. Johan's face twitched. Just don't get lost. Kubfu snapped back to reality, chasing after Gengar and Tinkaton in a hurry. Cool. Epsilon equals, angry face. The 3 Pokémon soon vanished from sight, walking in step like a small but mighty army. Watching them leave, Johan sighed deeply. I hope this doesn't end in disaster. Don't worry, teacher, Stephen reassured him. Yeah, Flannery chimed in. Your Pokémon are strong and experienced. They'll be fine. Johan gave her a sidelong glance and replied dryly, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the Battle Palace. Stephen and the others exchanged glances. Fair point. Let's hope the Battle Palace survives, Roxanne muttered awkwardly. After seeing off his Ghost Bear Hammer trio, Johan turned his attention to the Battle Factory. The rules here revolved around rental Pokémon. Trainers could borrow 3 random Pokémon and use them to battle against similarly equipped opponents. Upon winning, the trainer could swap one of their Pokémon with one from their opponent's team. After achieving a series of victories, they would face the factory head, Noland. The factory's emphasis on randomness didn't lower its popularity. If anything, the unpredictability made it even more exciting. Pokémon were randomized. Opponents were randomized. Held items were randomized. It's all about strategy and a little luck. When Johan arrived at the factory, he noticed something missing. Where's Jirachi? Probably went off with Gengar and the others, Steven guessed. Johan sighed. Let it play then. Inside the battle factory, a staff member handed Johan 6 Pokeballs and a summary sheet. Here are your 6 randomized Pokemon. Please select 3 for your team. Johan glanced at the Pokemon lineup and immediately felt like the universe was trolling him. Magikarp, Volbeat, Shroomish, Raticate, Grimer, Zigzagoon. The live chat erupted in laughter. Ha! There's actually a Magikarp. At least it's just one. Johan's luck stat is officially cursed. Even Johan's expression faltered. He strongly suspected that Scott had rigged this as a prank, but with Scott watching from the corner, Johan could only sigh. Johan reviewed the limited information provided about the Pokemon and soon narrowed down his choices. I'll go with these 3. He chose Volbeat, Shroomish, and Zigzagoon. The chat immediately exploded again. Volbeat, Shroomish, and Zigzagoon? What is this? A beginner trainer's team. Johan's about to teach us how to make the best of a bad situation. However, once the battles began, viewers started noticing something unusual. Wait, is that Volbeat's prankster ability? Volbeat Nosetail Glow. That's a +3 to special attack. And he's passing it to Shroomish. The crowd was floored. The seemingly weak Shroomish suddenly became a powerhouse, tearing through the opposing team. When asked how Shroomish could sustain such relentless attacks, Johan casually explained, Zigzagoon's ability is pickup. Zigzagoon kept recovering leftover berries from the battlefield, ensuring the team never ran out of resources. He's actually doing it. Shroomish is going on a rampage. This is the most inspiring underdog story I've ever seen. With his unique team strategy, Johan blazed through the battle factory, leaving both his opponents and the audience stunned. And that's how you speedrun the battle factory, Johan concluded smugly. The chat was flooded with comments. Teach us, Sensei. I'm catching these 3 Pokemon right now. Good job, Zigzagoon. You can rest now, Johan said, recalling Zigzagoon after it scavenged enough berries to replenish the team's energy. The chat immediately flooded with comments like so touching, MVP Zigzagoon, and true unsung hero. As the battle progressed, Johan replaced Shroomish with a Mungus after defeating an opponent. The chat's tone began to shift. Blissey and a Mungus? When Johan substituted Volbeat with Whimsicott during the final 2 matches, the chat lost it completely. The final team. Whimsicott, Amungus, Blissey. Is this even a team for humans to use? This isn't speedrunning. This is pure evil. Blissey, Whimsicott, and Amungus. They're fine on their own, but together? How is this even legal? I feel like throwing up. Where's the trash can? Despite the outcry, Johan's unorthodox team managed to complete the entire Battle Factory challenge in 6 hours, using tactics that left both opponents and spectators in awe or nausea. Thanks for helping me out, team, Johan said, smiling at his quirky lineup. Chat reaction. Sure, you cleared the Battle Factory, but at what cost? You just proved that weak Pokemon can be strong, but why do I feel like crying? While people cursed the team's strategy, the use of Whimsicott, Amungus, and Blissey skyrocketed across the Pokemon world. Players eagerly sought to recreate Johan's team, their inner monologues echoing. If I suffered through this, my friend should too. As Johan entered the Battle Factory's deepest chamber, he was greeted by the sound of gagging. The Battle Factory's frontier brain, Thornton, was hunched over a trash can, still mid-dry heave. Thornton, a burly, straightforward man with an insatiable curiosity, had eagerly watched Johan's matches to understand his strategies. Unfortunately, his habit of empathizing with the opponents proved unwise. Let's get started, Johan. Thornton wiped his mouth, forcing himself to stand tall. Are you sure? Want to rest for a moment? Johan asked, concerned. No need. Thornton boomed, his loud and forceful demeanor belying his earlier weakness. The final rules allowed challengers to select 3 Pokemon from both their rented team and their personal roster. Without much preamble, the match began. Chat commentary. Finally, a straightforward frontier brain. Just slap Johan around, Thornton. Wait, is Thornton even mentally ready for this match? Thornton's first Pokémon was Camerupt, the fire/ground Pokémon resembling a living volcano. Johan's choice, Whimsicott. The fluffy Pokémon's playful nature shone as it unleashed Tailwind, boosting the team's speed. Camerupt, Flamethrower. Camerupt roared, spewing molten flames. The powerful move, with its 150 base power, brought Whimsicott to the brink of fainting, but not quite. Focus Sash. Whimsicott clung to life. With a mischievous twinkle, Whimsicott followed up with Fake Tears, dramatically lowering Camerupt's special defense. Johan then swiftly swapped Whimsicott for his next Pokémon. Johan's second choice, Dragonair. Dragonair, Hydro Pump. The elegant dragon unleashed a torrent of water, taking full advantage of Camerupt's lower defenses. The quadruple weakness proved too much, and Camerupt fainted instantly. Bruh, he turned certain defeat into a 2-4-1 trade. Whimsicott deserves an award. Protect Whimsicott at all costs. After Camerupt's defeat, Johan recalled Dragonair to play reactively, waiting to see Thornton's next move. Thornton's second Pokémon, Venusaur. Johan's response? Ninetales Alolan. Snow warning. As Ninetales entered the field, a snowstorm blanketed the battlefield. The combo of Tailwind and Snow Warning set the stage for a powerful offense. Ninetales Nasty Plot. Johan commanded, boosting Ninetales' special attack significantly. Venusaur Sleep Powder. Thornton retaliated. Venusaur released a cloud of pollen across the field. However, Ninetales countered with Misty Terrain, nullifying the status move entirely. Chat commentary. If I can't use status moves, neither can you. Classic Johan. This is why Johan's team is hated and loved simultaneously. With its strategy thwarted, Venusaur launched Sludge Bomb, but Ninetales responded with Blizzard, decimating the battlefield. When the icy winds subsided, Venusaur was encased in a sheet of frost, completely knocked out. One more to go. Thornton's final Pokémon. Just as he reached for his third Pokeball, a piercing cry echoed through the factory. A wild Articuno appears. The legendary Pokémon descended majestically, its cry resonating across the facility. Oh no, someone's trying to cheat. Thornton, however, seemed thrilled. Were you drawn by the snowstorm? What perfect timing. Johan, expressionless face, it's just a baby Articuno. Ninetales, squint skeptically. In the Pokémon anime, Thornton is known to have an Articuno. More accurately, it's a wild Articuno he befriended, similar to Johan's relationships with Mew and Jirachi. However, Johan couldn't be entirely sure whether Thornton had already established a bond with Articuno at this point. Judging by the current situation, it seemed like Thornton and Articuno had indeed built some form of connection. That said, their bond was nowhere near as strong as the one Thornton had years later during Ash's travels. Moreover, this particular Articuno wasn't as powerful as some others Johan had encountered, such as the legendary Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres from their various regions. This conclusion was supported by Articuno's move set and the proficiency displayed in its execution, details visible via the Pokédex. Articuno and Thornton's connection was rooted in an event where the bird was injured while flying between two snowy peaks. Thornton, piloting a plane at the time, rescued it, leading to their friendship. A legendary Pokémon that could be hurt just flying between mountains wasn't exactly the most formidable specimen. Thus, Johan had his reasons for referring to it as a baby Articuno. Screech! The high-pitched cry grew louder as Articuno swiftly approached the battlefield. Chat commentary. Wait, is that Articuno? How was an Articuno here? No doubt about it. It's here to help Johan. He's the legendary Whisperer, after all. Thornton already lost 2 Pokémon, and now he's summoning an Articuno? That's cheating. Alright, fine, admit it. Johan really is the legendary Whisperer. However, as Articuno descended beside Thornton, radiating an icy, crystalline glow, the chat collectively froze. Soon, the screen was flooded with question marks. Hold up, that Articuno belongs to Thornton? Wait, so Johan isn't cheating? This is awkward. Thornton laughed as he introduced his relationship with Articuno, recounting the tale of how he rescued the Pokémon. Huh, this little guy wants to join the fight. You don't mind, do you, Johan? Johan's inner thoughts. I do mind, but he kept his composure. If I say no, would you actually back down? Probably not. The chat, oblivious to Johan's predicament, continued its relentless ribbing. Of course, Johan replied, expressionless. At his words, Alolan Ninetales rose, emitting a proud howl. Oh woo! If Johan said it was fine, then it was fine. Ninetales didn't care who the opponent was, even if it was a legendary Pokémon. The matchup, Alolan Ninetales versus Articuno. This was a battle of ice types. Articuno cried out, flapping its crystalline wings to stir a biting chill. The frigid winds rolled forward, exuding a sense of immense pressure. Dazzling gleam, Johan commanded. Ninetales let out a melodic cry as its body shimmered with rainbow-colored light. The radiance intensified and struck Articuno directly. Boom! Caught off guard, Articuno wavered in midair, unprepared for such swift and powerful aggression. Chat commentary. Ninetales came out swinging. Is this even fair? Look at that power. She's insane. With Tailwind and Nasty Plot still active, coupled with Snow Warning and Misty Terrain, Ninetales was as powerful as ever. But Articuno also benefited from the Snow Warning, gaining an added boost to its strength. Articuno haze! Thornton commanded. Articuno flapped its wings, unleashing a swirling black mist that covered the battlefield. Haze resets all stat changes on the field. Thornton had quickly identified the danger posed by Ninetales' boosted special attack. But Johan smirked. White Mist! White Mist protects the user's team from having its stats lowered. Ninetales flicked its tails gracefully, releasing a frosty mist that clung to its form. The ethereal glow made the elegant fox Pokémon seem almost otherworldly. The result? Ninetales' stat boosts remained intact. However, Thornton's plan wasn't entirely foiled. His haze had also ended Tailwind, removing Johan's team's speed advantage. Articuno set up Tailwind. Articuno flapped its wings once more, creating a gusty breeze. The battlefield's tempo shifted, with Articuno now claiming the speed advantage. In response, Ninetales quietly conjured an Aurora Veil, bolstering its defense. Blizzard, Thornton called. Oh whoa. Snowstorm met snowstorm as Articuno unleashed a freezing gale. It was the first time Ninetales had ever been on the receiving end of Blizzard. Johan's eyes narrowed as he met Ninetales' gaze. He didn't need words to understand its thoughts. This was a matter of pride. You've come this far, Johan said softly. Let's prove it together. Blizzard, Ninetales roared, releasing a gale of its own. The two blizzards collided violently, sending waves of frost and snow spiraling throughout the arena. Icy patterns etched themselves into walls, windows, and floors. Chat commentary. This is nuts. Two blizzards clashing head-on. Alolan Ninetales is going toe-to-toe with Articuno. And winning, Articuno flapped its wings harder, pouring more power into its blizzard. But Ninetales stood firm, its determination unwavering. The collision culminated in a massive explosion of ice and wind. When the frost cleared, Articuno stumbled midair, its wings struggling to keep it aloft. Articuno lost the exchange. Finish it, Ninetales, Iron Tail, Johan commanded. Ninetales dashed forward, its Ninetales gleaming with metallic brilliance. With graceful yet powerful movements, it struck Articuno repeatedly. Thud! Articuno crashed to the ground, fainted. Chat exploded. She won. Ninetales actually beat Articuno. Legendary Whisperer Johan strikes again. Ninetales supremacy. Thornton, holding Articuno's Pokeball, chuckled. You and your Ninetales make an incredible team. You've earned this. He handed Johan the knowledge symbol, the emblem of the battle factory. Thanks, Johan said, smiling as he exchanged a victorious glance with Ninetales. But Thornton offered a final warning. If you're planning to conquer the battle frontier, you'll need to face Brandon. His Reggie team is on a whole different level. Johan's smile faltered slightly. Trust me, I know. As they exited the factory, Johan spotted Gengar, Tinkaton, Kubfu, and Jirachi sitting on a flower bed outside, each happily eating an ice cream cone. Where did you get those? Johan asked suspiciously. Gengar scratched its head sheepishly and explained it had been a gift from a bald old man with a white beard and a cane. What did you do? Johan pressed. Gengar shrugged nonchalantly, tossing an ice cream wrapper over its shoulder. Meanwhile, Stephen received a phone call. His expression instantly stiffened. Another quiet night passed uneventfully. The next morning, Johan gathered his Pokémon in the yard, a rare seriousness in his demeanor. Teacher seems unusually focused today, Flannery remarked, resting her chin on her hand under the parasol. Stephen nodded. He has good reason to be. Today, he's facing the Battle Frontier's strongest brain, Brandon, in the Battle Pyramid. Roxanne added, Brandon's strength is unmatched, even among the Frontier brains. He's the one who's captured the 3 legendary titans. In the yard, Johan stood in the middle of a semicircle of his Pokémon, his gaze sharp as he addressed them with gravity. Remember this, lamb will never beat beef. So, at the very least, tonight, we're feasting on steak. Kaka, Gengar muttered under its breath. But roast lamb tastes amazing too. Johan caught that. All right, let's vote. All in favor of Gengar's roast lamb idea, raise your hands. With a dramatic flourish, Gengar shot its hand up. When it turned to look behind, it found that Ninetales, Tinkaton, Dragonair, Kubfu, Charadet, Rotom, and Jirachi hadn't budged. Its ears drooped, and it adopted a pitiful expression, fiddling with its fingers dejectedly. Feeling guilty, Ninetales and the others hesitated, then slowly raised their paws and tails. Caught you, Johan growled inwardly. From Gengar's downward glance, Johan could see through its act. All right, fine. Steak and lamb for everyone. The Pokémon erupted into cheers, Gengar leading the charge. Has teacher found a strategy to win? Flannery asked, noticing Johan's energy. After breakfast, the group prepared to head to the Battle Pyramid. But they were informed that Brandon and the Battle Pyramid were no longer at the Battle Frontier. The one to break the news was none other than Annabelle, a frontier brain who worked closely with the International Police. We uncovered some critical leads from the captured Team Aqua members, as well as traces left behind. It led us to an operations site, Annabelle explained via phone. Brandon has already gone ahead with the Battle Pyramid. Shortly after, Annabelle arrived at their villa to pick up Johan, Stephen, Flannery, and Roxanne. While only Johan was meant to assist with the operation, Stephen and the others insisted on joining since they had been involved. The group boarded a small aircraft that took them to a remote island. When the plane landed, they saw the high-tech Battle Pyramid parked in an open clearing. The pyramid, both a battle facility and a mobile command center, exuded an air of technological superiority. Brandon was there, directing operations with precision. The group approached him, noticing several subdued individuals being escorted onto a plane by the International Police. Looks like we arrived late, Annabelle remarked. Annabelle, Johan, Brandon greeted them with a nod, his typically stoic demeanor softening slightly. What's the situation? Flannery asked, glancing at the detainees. Are those Team Aqua members? Brandon shook his head. No, but they might as well be. They're poachers. This island is one of their bases. Poachers? Johan frowned, observing the captives. It seemed too coincidental to track Team Aqua's movements only to stumble upon a poacher hideout. Were the two groups connected, or was Team Aqua using the poachers as a diversion? Brandon explained that dismantling the poachers' operation was a priority, as it could lead to taking down their entire network. Johan's thoughts turned to the island's location. Annabelle, which route is this island on? Route 128, she replied without hesitation. Route 128. Johan's heart skipped a beat. Route 128 was a highly sensitive area in Hoenn, as it was home to the seafloor cavern, the underwater resting place of Kyogre and Groudon. The implications were clear. The poachers were likely connected to Team Aqua, who might be using them as pawns in a larger scheme. Something wrong, Johan? Annabelle asked, noticing his contemplative look. Johan shook his head. He couldn't explain his concerns, but he was sure of one thing. Kyogre and Groudon wouldn't awaken without their respective orbs. As Johan wandered the island, he stumbled upon a hidden ruin embedded within the landscape. The ruin was partially overgrown with vines, its entrance concealed by dense foliage. Broken pillars and weathered statues hinted at its ancient origins. These markings, someone's tampered with this site, Johan muttered, examining the remains. Brandon joined him, explaining that the poachers had been hiding in the ruins before their capture. Does Johan have experience with ruins? Brandon asked, curious. A little, Johan replied modestly. Gengar suddenly popped its head out of the ruined staircase, holding a peculiar stone basin. Kaka, look at this. It's got a rock inside. Brandon frowned, recognizing the artifact. Where did you find that? Gengar pointed deeper into the ruins, explaining that it had found a secret chamber with a pedestal holding the basin. A secret chamber? Brandon murmured, intrigued. Johan chuckled. Gengar has a knack for finding interesting rocks. Gengar handed the basin to Brandon, but kept the small rock inside for itself. It spat on the rock and wiped it clean, revealing a faint reddish hue beneath the grime. A gem? Johan asked, inspecting the stone. Gengar shrugged. Don't think so. It's just heavy. Curious, Johan asked. What did the chamber look like? Using hypnosis, Gengar projected its memory into Johan's mind. The chamber was dark and spacious, centered around a pedestal holding the basin. Behind the pedestal was a wall carved with intricate patterns. The carvings depicted a massive creature, one that couldn't fly. Johan's stomach sank. This ruin was a temple dedicated to Groudon. He glanced at the reddish stone in Gengar's hand. Could this be a fragment of Groudon itself? The connection brought to mind the magma rock, a fragment of Groudon's body once used by Butler in an attempt to create a superweapon. Gengar, you might have uncovered something big, Johan muttered. Brandon broke the silence. Johan, since the battle pyramid is already here, why not have your final frontier challenge here? Johan hesitated, but Brandon explained that he couldn't return to the battle frontier anytime soon due to the ongoing operation. As Johan considered, Gengar smugly polished the stone in its hand, oblivious to the weight of its discovery. The idea of battling atop ruins associated with Groudon and Kyogre was unusual, but Johan couldn't help finding the situation somewhat ironic. However, Groudon and Kyogre slumbered far below the sea in their caverns, far beyond the reach of ordinary submarines. Even if someone tried to disturb them, they wouldn't wake so easily. If it were that simple, leaders like Archie and Maxie would have succeeded long ago. Brandon seemed intent on thoroughly investigating the ruins. Since he wouldn't be returning to the battle frontier anytime soon, Johan agreed to battle here. All right, Johan nodded. This way, the battle wouldn't interfere with dinner plans. When Stephen, Flannery, and Roxanne learned the battle would be on site, they were surprised. What about the live broadcast? Flannery asked. Stephen shrugged. Mr. Scott has been so busy lately. It might be for the best. The surge of visitors to the battle frontier due to Johan's popularity, the comet's appearance, and the successful live stream had Scott swamped. Besides, the series has already been a huge success, Stephen added. Annabelle, intrigued by the upcoming battle, decided to stay and oversee the match after sending the captured poachers back to base. Brandon's battle pyramid opened its upper tier, revealing a large battleground. Johan, smash him! Johan, smash him! Jirachi, free from pretending to be an ordinary Pokémon, waved its tiny fists with enthusiasm. Johan sighed, rubbing his temples. It's Gengar's fault Jirachi's picked up this behavior, he muttered inwardly. Kaka. Gengar smirked mischievously, ruffling Jirachi's hair in approval. The battle was set to be a 3-on-3 rotation match, with Annabelle acting as the referee. Brandon, ever serious, swiftly entered battle mode. Johan mirrored his intensity. Brandon was the first to act. Go Dusknoir! Out came a ghostly Pokémon wrapped in gray bandages, its single red eye gleaming ominously. Dusknoir, the gripper Pokémon ghost type. Its hollow body is said to trap wandering souls. Staring into its eye is said to lead to doom. Even Rotom Dex hesitated to look directly at Dusknoir, while Gengar turned its head away in mild fear. Johan chose Ninetales as his opener. The elegant ice Pokémon gracefully unfurled its tails, summoning a swirling snowfall. A solid start from Johan, Roxanne noted. Flannery pouted. I wanted to see a ghost versus ghost match between Dusknoir and Gengar. Let's begin, Annabelle declared. Dusknoir, fire punch. Brandon crossed his arms, issuing his command with authority. Dusknoir's massive fists ignited with flames as it charged toward Ninetales. Aurora Veil. Ninetales swiftly conjured layers of shimmering light within the falling snow. Dusknoir's fiery fists clashed against the barriers, shattering layer after layer. Its brute strength was terrifying. That's incredible, Flannery gasped. Even Roxanne was impressed. Breaking through multiple layers of Aurora Veil with pure force. Brandon's Dusknoir is something else. Ninetales barely managed to maintain the final layer of protection. It exhaled softly, relieved. Ninetales' Dark Pulse. Ninetales unleashed a wave of dark energy, crashing directly into Dusknoir. But the attack struck only an afterimage. Substitute. Dusknoir reappeared behind Ninetales, its eye glowing malevolently. Now confuse Ray. Brandon seized the opportunity. Dusknoir began emitting a disorienting light. Seal it, Johan countered. Imprison. Prevent opponents from using moves that the user knows. Ninetales emitted a soft, psychic glow, immediately cutting off Dusknoir's confuse ray. Brandon and Dusknoir froze in surprise. Johan didn't let the opening slip. Blizzard. Ninetales unleashed a fierce snowstorm, engulfing Dusknoir. Dusknoir, surround yourself with Will-O-Wisp. Brandon attempted to mitigate the damage by creating a fiery shield. But Ninetales had no intention of letting up. The storm intensified, enhanced by its psychic energy. When the snow cleared, Dusknoir was frozen solid, flames suspended mid-air within the ice. What power, Brandon murmured. Roxanne shook her head. The turning point was imprisoned. It completely disrupted Dusknoir's strategy. Brandon recalled Dusknoir and sent out his second Pokémon. Go Solrock. The levitating sun Pokémon emerged, and Brandon wasted no time. Iron Head. Johan quickly recalled Ninetales, sending out Dragonair in its place. Dragonair Extreme Speed. The nimble dragon Pokémon narrowly avoided Solrock's rapid assault. Brandon's eyes gleamed with respect. Quick reflexes. Solrock immediately followed up. Stone Edge. Sharp rocks erupted from the ground. Fly up and Dragon Dance. Johan countered. Dragonair danced gracefully in the air, evading the rocky spikes and boosting its power and speed. Brandon wasn't deterred. Rock Slide. Large boulders rained from above, slamming Dragonair into the ground. Johan winced. Solrock's attack speed was impressive. Brandon pressed the advantage. Earthquake. The ground trembled violently, but Dragonair responded quickly. Extreme Speed, then Dragon Rush. Dragonair charged forward with blinding speed, cloaked in a dragon-shaped aura. Block it with Rock Tomb. Solrock used its psychic powers to create a barrier of rocks, but Dragonair smashed through it. The clash sent both Pokémon crashing to the ground. As the dust settled, Dragonair emerged, battered but victorious. Solrock is unable to battle, Annabelle declared. Flannery cheered. 2 down. Roxanne wasn't as optimistic. Brandon still has his ace. Brandon smiled faintly, recalling Solrock. Johan, your bond with your Pokémon is extraordinary. Now, let's see how you handle this. He threw his final Pokeball. Registeel, stand firm. The massive iron Pokémon landed with a resounding thud, its metallic body gleaming ominously. The final battle was about to begin. Registeel, the Iron Titan, stood tall, its head adorned with 7 glowing dots, and its metallic body shimmering under the light. Steven couldn't help but marvel at its majesty from the sidelines. Registeel, the legendary Iron Titan. Information is scarce, Rotom. Even the Rotom Dex, with its vast database, had little to offer on Registeel. Johan, however, felt a slight headache coming on. Steel types, Johan muttered under his breath. Of the Registeel was the most troublesome for his team. Its steel typing rendered Ninetales' ice moves 4 times weaker, and Gengar's poison moves were entirely ineffective. Come back, Dragonair. He recalled his Dragonair, which had taken significant damage from its battle with Solrock. After a moment's thought, Johan made his decision. Ninetales, you're up again. Oh well. The Ice Ninetales re-entered the battlefield, summoning a fresh blizzard. Wait, is he serious? Steven, Roxanne, and Flannery exchanged bewildered looks. Johan had previously withdrawn Ninetales against Solrock's Iron Head, citing its quadruple weakness to steel. Yet now he sent it out against a Steel Titan? Did Johan grab the wrong Pokeball? Flannery asked hesitantly. Roxanne shook her head. No way. Johan isn't someone to make that kind of mistake. Maybe he's trying to chip away at Registeel's stamina. Roxanne speculated. Steven crossed his arms. Let's wait and see. Johan always has a plan. Nasty plot. Johan's command was calm and decisive. Oh, in the swirling snow, Ninetales lifted its elegant body, its mind focusing intensely as it prepared for a decisive strike. Brandon's eyes narrowed. Registeel, flash cannon. The 7 glowing dots on Registeel's face pulsed rhythmically. A silvery light coalesced into a powerful beam that shot toward Ninetales. Layer after layer of Aurora Veil shattered under the pressure of Flash Cannon. The power, it's incredible. Flannery gasped. Even Roxanne looked uneasy. It's clearly stronger than Dusknoir and Solrock. Registeel is on a completely different level. But Ninetales managed to dodge at the last moment, landing gracefully despite the overwhelming force. Good work, Ninetales. Baton pass. With a nod, Ninetales leapt back, its elegant form retreating as Gengar emerged from the shadows. Kaka. The grinning Gengar entered the field, inheriting the boost from Ninetales' nasty plot. Baton pass. Brandon muttered, his expression stiffening. From the sidelines, Flannery suddenly understood. Oh, I see now. Johan used Ninetales to set up and pass the boost to Gengar. Roxanne frowned. But even with those boosts, Gengar is at a disadvantage against Registeel. Its poison moves are useless, and Steel resists Ghost. Thunderwave. Brandon ordered swiftly, sending crackling yellow energy toward Gengar. Dodge it. Johan's response was just as quick. Kaka. With a mischievous laugh, Gengar melded into the shadows, evading the attack entirely. Registeel behind you, Brandon shouted. Gengar emerged from Registeel's shadow, holding a faintly glowing orb of blue static, Thunderwave. But Registeel stomped the ground hard, raising a slab of rock to block the attack. Brandon smirked. Earthquake. Will-o-wisp. The ground rumbled violently as Gengar was knocked back, clutching its sides. But the eerie blue flames it released had taken effect, burning Registeel and having its attack power. That burn was crucial, Flannery murmured. Roxanne nodded. If not for that, Earthquake might have knocked Gengar out entirely. Is Johan planning to use Destiny Bond again? Roxanne speculated. The thought crossed Annabelle's mind as well. She vividly remembered Gengar's Destiny Bond tactic against her Metagross during their battle at the Battle Tower. No need for that, Johan thought, meeting Gengar's gaze. Gengar ready? Kaka. Gengar's wide grin widened further. It slammed a foot down dramatically, dark energy swirling around it. Brandon's eyes narrowed as he felt an ominous shift in the air. This energy, could it be? A brilliant light formed between Johan and Gengar. From Johan's hand, the keystone on his glasses emitted a radiant glow, connecting with the stone embedded in Gengar's chest. Mega Evolution. A dazzling transformation ensued as Gengar's body underwent a spectacular change. The once playful Spectre now stood as a terrifying force, its colors deepened, its presence heavier, and its aura overwhelming. Mega Gengar. The sheer intensity of Mega Gengar's ghost energy made even Brandon take a step back. Registeel, though stoic, seemed momentarily shaken by the oppressive aura. Registeel, lock on, Brandon commanded, his voice steady despite the tension. Golden crosshairs appeared in Registeel's vision, locking onto Mega Gengar's position. Thunderbolt. But before the move could fire, Johan and Gengar acted as one. Shadow Ball. A massive sphere of dark energy materialized above Mega Gengar, its size and intensity dwarfing any Shadow Ball seen before. The world seemed to hold its breath as the two attacks collided. Boom! The explosion rocked the battle pyramid, sending debris flying and shattering the reinforced glass. Dust filled the air as the two trainers steadied themselves. When the dust settled, Registeel lay motionless, its armor scorched and cracked. Registeel is unable to battle. The winner is Johan, Annabelle declared. Cheers erupted from the sidelines. Jirachi spun happily in the air. Johan and Gengar exchanged tired but triumphant smiles. We did it. Gengar gave a playful thumbs up. Brandon stepped forward, recalling Registeel. Despite his loss, a smile crept onto his face. Johan, your bond with your Pokémon is remarkable. Mega Evolution. That was extraordinary. Johan nodded, still catching his breath. Thanks. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting there. As the audience applauded, Johan turned to his team, already thinking about their next challenge. So strong, Roxanne murmured. The power of that Shadow Ball was overwhelming. It felt like her Pokémon wouldn't have survived even with 10 lives. Registeel had fallen. So did Johan win? Flannery muttered softly. The battle felt surreal. Registeel, God of Steel, was leagues stronger than Diraca's Articuno from the day before. But the true shock wasn't just Johan's victory. It was Gengar's Mega Evolution and the devastating Shadow Ball that followed. Mega Evolution. Was this power unique to Gengar? Everyone present, Steven, Roxanne, Flannery, Annabelle, and even Brandon, was left stunned by Gengar's transformation. The Mega Evolution itself was surprising enough, but the Shadow Ball's sheer force was something they couldn't comprehend. So strong, Annabelle whispered, marveling at the display. She suddenly realized, during their Battle Tower match, Johan had held back. Otherwise, her Metagross wouldn't have stood a chance. Was I just a baby in Johan's eyes? The group quietly settled on a new metric. If Johan didn't use Mega Evolution against you, you were officially a baby trainer. Brandon approached Johan after recalling his fallen Registeel. You've won, he said solemnly. I don't fully understand what this Mega Evolution is, but I can feel it. It's a testament to the deep bond between you and your Pokémon. You've shattered the final barrier. He retrieved a golden emblem from his pocket. This symbol of courage is yours. Kaka. With a wide grin, Gengar eagerly accepted the badge. It knew these frontier symbols weren't particularly valuable, but this one was a hard-earned trophy. Johan had poured everything into this battle, even using Mega Evolution. The symbol was well-deserved. Johan chuckled, shaking his head. Mega Evolution wasn't something he could use casually. Even with his current endurance, the aftermath left him feeling drained. Gengar, pass me a piece. Kaka. Gengar tilted its head, rummaged in its bag, and handed Johan a chunk of a citrus berry candy. Johan popped it into his mouth and chewed. Not bad. Sweet. Now he understood why Gengar loved citrus candies but avoided energy roots. They weren't as tasty. Teacher. Johan. The crowd of spectators, Steven, Roxanne, Flannery, Annabelle, and Jirachi, all rushed toward Johan. Johan, you're amazing. Jirachi squealed in delight, launching itself into Johan's arms. Johan laughed, giving the little Pokemon's cheek a playful pinch. So soft, like a marshmallow. Jirachi pouted but remained cuddly, nuzzling against Johan. The warmth of their bond was palpable. In truth, Johan had considered using Jirachi against Brandon if all 3 Titans were sent out. But forcing Jirachi into battle wasn't something he was willing to do. This little one deserved peace after its millennium-long slumber. Jirachi seemed to sense Johan's thoughts. Even as he pinched its cheek, it clung to him affectionately. With the final symbol of courage in hand, Johan and his team had officially conquered the battle frontier. On the return flight, Flannery couldn't contain her curiosity. "Teacher, what is Mega Evolution?" Johan glanced at her, gently stroking Jirachi's head. Mega Evolution. Well, it's something Professor Sycamore has been researching extensively. It's somewhat similar to Gaylor's Dynamax phenomenon. He explained the basics of Mega Evolution, how it required specific Pokémon, a Megastone for the Pokémon, a Keystone for the trainer, and most importantly, a deep bond between them. Annabelle's eyes widened. "So it's not just about items, it's about the bond too?" Johan nodded. "Exactly. Without that bond, Mega Evolution might fail or even harm both the trainer and Pokémon." He briefly mentioned Ash and Greninja's bond phenomenon, which operated on a similar principle. Steven leaned forward. "Which Pokémon can Mega Evolve?" Johan chuckled. "It's still under research, but your Metagross can." Steven's eyes lit up with excitement. "Metagross can Mega Evolve?" Flannery gawked. "Steven's already terrifying with Metagross. If it Mega Evolves, it's game over." Johan laughed. "That's the nature of Mega Evolution. It raises the stakes. For example, Cynthia's Garchomp and Agron can Mega Evolve too." Roxanne looked thoughtful. "Doesn't this mean champion-level trainers will get even stronger?" Johan nodded. "Precisely. Mega Evolution adds a new dimension to battles. It's a game changer." Flannery smirked. "Poor Lance. No Mega Evolution for him." The group burst into laughter, imagining Lance's dismay. As the conversation continued, Johan dropped hints about other Pokémon capable of Mega Evolution: Blaziken, Lucario, Houndoom, and more. Back at the Battle Frontier, Palmer, the Battle Frontier owner, was stunned when he arrived at Brandon's Island. The sight of the battered battle pyramid left him speechless. "You used all 3 Titans, right?" Palmer asked Brandon. Brandon nodded solemnly. "I did. And you still lost?" Brandon's expression remained serious. "Yes." Johan was simply stronger. Palmer was incredulous. "Wait, was it close? Did you at least take down one of his Pokémon?" Brandon shook his head. "No, it was 3-0. He swept me." Palmer felt faint. News of Johan's victory spread like wildfire. Headlines celebrated his conquest of the battle frontier. Johan, the rising star of a new generation. 3 days to dominate the battle frontier. Meanwhile, far away in Unova, a young trainer named Tobias stepped out of his house, only to be mobbed by reporters. "What do you think of Johan's victory?" Tobias adjusted his cap, his expression calm. "I'm a fan of his." Deep within the ocean, aboard a submarine, Doc idly scrolled through his phone as he followed orders to lay low for a while. Upon seeing the news of Johan defeating Brandon with a 3-0 victory, even besting the legendary Titans, Doc wiped the sweat from his brow. "Good thing I ran fast enough," he muttered with relief. "Viridian City, Rocket Base. Mahogany, bring up the latest news on Johan," Giovanni ordered. The large screen displayed Mahogany's image alongside recent news of Johan conquering the battle frontier and defeating Brandon. "Already capable of defeating Brandon?" Giovanni murmured, visibly impressed. "His progress is remarkable." When Johan first visited the Viridian Gym, his unique insights and talents were evident, but his actual battle strength had been fairly average. Yet, in just a few short months, Johan had grown strong enough to conquer the battle frontier and face Brandon head-on. Giovanni, however, was no stranger to Brandon's strength. "By the way," he added, "we haven't given Johan his year-end bonus yet, have we?" "Not yet," Mahogany confirmed. "Make the arrangements," Giovanni instructed. "Understood." Hoenn Region, Rustboro Pokémon Academy. In the principal's office, the elderly headmaster chuckled as he spoke on the phone. "Clavel, there's no need to worry. Johan will surely bring a few students to visit your academy for an exchange program." Behind him, a Pangoro chewed on a bamboo stick, contemplating how it could best spar with the old man today. And that favor I asked for? Ah, you mean Professor Ryfort? The headmaster's mind wandered to a certain figure. Ryfort, a historian at Naranja Academy, had previously been an adventurer involved in archaeology and tomb raiding. Ancient blueprints, you say? That's tricky, but doable. Better than nothing, I suppose. After hanging up, the headmaster stroked his chin. Ancient armor schematics, huh? Could Johan really forge them himself? Roar! The Pangoro cracked its knuckles, flashing a grin. It was time to train. The old headmaster stood, his body trembling slightly, but his face filled with confidence. Come on, let me teach you a new move today. From the principal's office, the sound of punches and loud grunts echoed. Johan stretched lazily in bed, scrolling through his phone. Woke up to find the internet turning me into a Pokémon master. He muttered, amused by the headlines. Various media outlets had taken his recent achievements and blown them out of proportion. Some articles claimed, Brandon rivals the Elite Four. Johan crushed him 3-0. Ergo, Johan could crush the Elite Four. Even more ridiculous were jokes like, since Brandon can't beat Johan, and I can't beat Johan, does that mean I'm equal to Brandon? Such exaggerated claims made Johan chuckle. As for comparisons to the Elite Four, Johan shrugged it off. Yes, he had defeated Brandon's Registeel, but only with Ninetales Baton Pass buffs and Gengar's Mega Evolution. By the end of that battle, both he and Gengar were utterly spent, barely able to stand. He knew well that there was still a significant gap between him and the Elite Four. Guess some people just don't want to see me compete in the league. Johan wasn't bothered by public opinion. As a registered junior trainer, he was already punching above his weight by competing in the league. Besides, he thought with a grin, who cares about public opinion when your goal is fun, challenge, and adventure? After a long morning of lounging in bed, Johan finally got up, washed, and stepped outside into the garden. The Pokémon were already playing. Gengar, Mega Evolution. Excited, Jirachi cheered. Kaka. Gengar growled in mock seriousness, mist swirling around it as it mimicked its mega form. Tinkaton handed over a paper eye, and Gengar stuck it to its forehead, pretending it was part of its transformation. The Pokémon burst into laughter. Dragonair tilted its head. Gengar, where do your feet go during Mega Evolution? Gengar froze. It had never considered that before. Johan, noticing the scene, chuckled and stepped in. Mega Gengar's body partially shifts into a different dimension. Its lower half hides there, ready to dodge at any moment. The Pokémon nodded, enlightened. Relieved, Gengar wiped imaginary sweat from its brow. Gengar, show me the stone you found yesterday, Johan asked. Kaka. Gengar retrieved the gray-black stone and handed it over. Johan noticed its surface had been wiped clean, revealing faint streaks of crimson. Goka. Charadet was immediately drawn to the stone, sensing a strange energy emanating from it. Johan raised an eyebrow. Could this stone be connected to Groudon? Whatever it is, it's just an inanimate object now. Smiling, he handed the stone to Charadet. If it resonates with you, then it's yours. Charadet's flames flickered, glowing a slightly deeper red as it carefully stored the stone away. Johan, Mr. Scott wants to see you, Flannery and Roxanne said, approaching the garden. Scott arrived, dressed in his usual Alola-style beachwear. After congratulating Johan on conquering the battle frontier, Scott extended an invitation. As per tradition, any trainer who collects all 7 gold symbols and conquers the battle frontier is eligible to become a frontier brain. Would you be interested, Johan? Johan hesitated. Scott's enthusiasm grew. If you agree, we can even design a new facility for you. The symbol of mindfulness, perhaps? The idea intrigued Gengar, who was practically glowing at the thought of such prestige. But Johan shook his head, smiling. Thanks, Scott, but I think I'll pass. Becoming a frontier brain would mean giving up his freedom to teach, travel, and bond with Pokémon. For now, Johan preferred his current path. If you ever change your mind, the battle frontier will always welcome you, Scott said. After Scott departed, Johan turned to the Pokémon. All right, everyone, No training today. We're going to the amusement park. Cheers erupted as the Pokémon celebrated the promise of a fun-filled day. Jirachi, don't eat too much ice cream, or you'll get a stomachache, Johan warned. All right. Jirachi reluctantly looked at the vanilla ice cream in its left hand and the creamy milk ice cream in its right. It couldn't decide which to give up. Seeing its hesitant and conflicted expression, Johan sighed. Fine, just eat them both. As a mythical Pokémon, Jirachi probably wouldn't actually get a stomachache from eating too much ice cream. Yay! The clever little Pokémon twinkled its eyes mischievously and happily devoured the treats. Johan shook his head, smiling. Thanks to the increase in visitors to the battle frontier and the attraction of the Millennium Comet, the streets were vibrant and festive. Shops had sprung up, and the roads were decorated with bright lights, giving the area the feel of a grand celebration. The group strolled along the bustling streets, stopping occasionally to play games or buy snacks. Kaka. Suddenly, Gengar tugged at Jirachi's ribbon and put a finger to its lips, signaling it to stay quiet. Jirachi's eyes sparkled, and it quickly covered its mouth with its hands, nodding excitedly. The two snuck away for a moment. When they returned, they were draped in a large white sheet. Moving silently, they crept up behind Johan. Kaka! Gengar yelled as it ripped off the sheet, revealing itself grinning mischievously. Next to it stood Jirachi, dressed in a Gengar-themed costume, arms spread wide in imitation. Johan, Gengar, you'll even borrow Jirachi's skin, huh? Though Johan had noticed them earlier, when he saw Jirachi's expectant gaze, he paused for a moment before pretending to be startled. You scare me, Johan said, clutching his chest dramatically. Ha ha ha. Jirachi laughed happily, rolling around on Gengar's head. We scared Johan. We scared him. Ka ka ka. Gengar crossed its arms, looking triumphant. Its expression screamed, see how great I am? I'm the king of fear. After more games and wandering, they finally returned to their lodging. Johan felt utterly exhausted. Walking around with excitable Pokémon was far more tiring than a date. Even as a capable fighter, he couldn't keep up with their boundless energy. When they arrived, Johan discovered Steven, Flannery, and Roxanne sitting in the garden, playing cards. Seriously? Johan muttered. Seeing the game, Johan's interest was piqued. Move aside, Flannery. Let me show you how it's done, Johan said, rolling up his sleeves. Fine, go ahead, Flannery replied with a smirk, giving up her seat. Johan quickly learned the card game's rules. One pair of cater pie, Johan declared dramatically, throwing down his cards. Bomb, Steven replied, slamming down 2 Rayquaza cards. But I only played cater pie. Johan blinked. Steven grinned. I know, he said, laying down a 7-card straight. Pass, Roxanne said, refraining from challenging her teammate's move. Johan glanced at his hand, then at Steven's. All right, Johan sighed, gathering the cards. Let's see you handle all 17 of mine. Straight, Steven declared again, playing 8 cards in a row. Johan, the garden erupted with laughter. Even Jirachi, who didn't understand the game, joined in the mirth. Determined to win, Johan called upon his Pokémon for help. Ninetales, help me draw cards. The next day marked Jirachi's 7th day of awakening. As the group left the battle frontier, they returned to the stone pillar forest where they had camped before. The night sky sparkled with countless stars, and the Millennium Comet stretched across the heavens. Sleeping for 1,000 years, only to wake for 7 days, Flannery murmured, her voice tinged with sadness as she looked at Jirachi. It's so unfair, Roxanne added, her expression somber. Jirachi, holding a wish stick it had bought from a shop, tilted its head in confusion. The shopkeeper had claimed that waving the stick at the comet would make any wish come true. Ironically, the one who bought it was the wish Pokémon itself, and it genuinely believed the claim. Steven smiled at Jirachi. It doesn't matter how long it sleeps. What's important is that it's happy when it wakes. Everyone, let's play together. Jirachi's soft glow melded with the starlit sky. Its ribbons fluttered as it smiled innocently. Johan tucked away his phone, no longer checking the time. All right, he said warmly. Let's play. As the night wore on, the group made their way to their campsite. Suddenly, the stars grew brighter. Jirachi began to shine, floating upward. Its true eye opened on its stomach, responding to the comet's light. The Millennium Comet's glow enveloped Jirachi, bathing the area in radiant energy. It's time to say goodbye, Johan said softly. The Pokémon lowered their heads, visibly saddened. Even Gengar pulled out a handkerchief, pretending to wipe its eyes. Flannery and Roxanne were teary-eyed, and even Steven looked melancholic. Johan, Jirachi's voice echoed in Johan's mind. You haven't made a wish yet. Whatever you wish for, Jirachi will grant it. Johan hesitated, then smiled gently. I wish for Jirachi to have beautiful dreams during its 1,000 years of sleep. Long, happy dreams that will keep you smiling. Jirachi blinked, then smiled. Johan, I'm sleepy. Sing to me. Johan softly hummed a lullaby. Though not a great singer, his voice was familiar and comforting to Jirachi. Gradually, Jirachi's movement slowed, its glow dimmed. As crystalline layers formed around it, Jirachi returned to its dormant state. Kaka, Dra, Gengar, Ninetales, and the others waved as Jirachi disappeared beneath the earth, its glow fading into the ground. At the same time, the comet vanished, leaving behind a sky full of brilliant stars. Suddenly, a small fragment fell from the sky, glowing faintly green. The fragment landed softly in Johan's hands. It was Jirachi's final gift. Johan, remember me, okay? I'll feel it. The galaxy stretched vast and serene under the cloudless sky. As Jirachi fell back into its 1,000-year slumber and the Millennium Comet gradually disappeared from view, the night returned to tranquil stillness. Johan and his team sat on the soft grass, gazing up at the sparkling stars. Ooh, is Jirachi asleep now? Ninetales, lying quietly across Johan's lap, whispered as if afraid her voice might disturb Jirachi's dreams. Johan smiled gently, stroking Ninetales' soft fur, and nodded. Yes, it's asleep. Kaka, we'll have sweet dreams. Gengar, too, couldn't hide its sadness. In just 7 days, they had formed a wonderful bond with Jirachi, playing and laughing together like close friends. It will, Johan said confidently, because I made a wish to the wish Pokémon, Jirachi. In its dreams, Jirachi might still be playing joyfully with us, with Steven, with you all, filled with laughter. That's wonderful. Roxanne wiped a tear from the corner of her eye, then smiled. She took a deep breath and said, all in all, Jirachi had a fulfilling time, and we've had a beautiful journey. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet it again someday, Steven added with a small smile. Somehow, he had a gut feeling this wouldn't be their last encounter. Maybe, Johan murmured, as he held the same faint intuition. As they spoke, Johan took out a green shard that had fallen from the sky when Jirachi went back to sleep. The fragment, about the size of thumb, bore faint, glowing patterns that pulsed intermittently. What is this? Since it fell when Jirachi slumbered, it likely had something to do with its power. Jirachi's ability worked on the principle of equivalent exchange, so this might have been teleported from somewhere else. Humming softly to himself, Johan reached into his inner pocket and pulled out 2 feathers, the radiant rainbow wing and the softly glowing silver wing. Again, both feathers seemed to stir, reacting to the shard. Last time these feathers acted up, Jirachi had awakened. Johan couldn't shake the feeling that these items had some level of self-awareness, especially the rainbow wing, which lately had been demanding his aura energy. Wait, aura? Johan frowned slightly, his gaze shifting to the green shard. Jirachi wouldn't hurt me, would it? With a deep breath, Johan channeled a steady stream of blue aura energy, letting it flow into the shard. The shard pulsed with blinding light as the faint patterns on its surface sharpened into a clear design, a triangular symbol. A triangle. Wait a second. A triangle. Delta, delta. The bright light seemed visible only to Johan. Steven and the others didn't react at all. However, his Pokémon appeared to sense something. Ninetales, Gengar, and Dragonair all perked up, gazing intently at the shard. Dragonair, in particular, seemed affected. The blue orbs on its neck began to emit a faint, milky white glow. As the shard shone brighter, Johan's vision began to warp. Suddenly, he found himself suspended above a vast, boundless sky, surrounded by drifting clouds. Amidst the mist, a green, serpentine figure streaked through the air. Its body was adorned with red and yellow patterns, and it had sharp claws and four-pointed horns. The figure twisted and coiled gracefully, its body surrounded by swirling white energy. When Johan finally recognized the figure, his eyes widened in shock. That's Mega Rayquaza. No, it was Rayquaza, the sky-high Pokémon. Johan's mind raced. Last night, while playing cards, he had grumbled repeatedly about wanting a Rayquaza card. Did Jirachi overhear and interpret it as a genuine wish? Seriously? This must be the shard's doing. Johan's thoughts turned to a specific term, the Jade Orb. In ancient legend, Groudon and Kyogre were controlled using the red orb and blue orb, respectively. Similarly, Rayquaza had its own corresponding artifact, the Jade Orb. So, Jirachi couldn't summon Rayquaza directly, but it gave me a piece of the Jade Orb instead? Well, that's one way to see Rayquaza. Johan could almost imagine Jirachi's proud expression. Look, aren't I amazing? Praise me. Roar. A thunderous cry interrupted Johan's thoughts. Rayquaza, weaving through the clouds, finally noticed his presence. The Pokémon's body shifted gracefully as it roared, causing waves of clouds to scatter. Rayquaza's ability, Air Lock, activated. The weather effects in the area disappeared entirely. In a flash, the legendary Pokémon twisted its body and descended in front of Johan. Its crimson, emotionless eyes locked onto him. For Johan, Rayquaza had always been a symbol of power. He recalled the movie Hoopa and the Clash of Ages, where shiny Mega Rayquaza took on 7 legendary Pokémon at once. Then there was the battle with Deoxys in Destiny Deoxys, where it fought valiantly but struggled. Now, seeing it up close, Johan felt its overwhelming presence. Human, a deep voice echoed in Johan's mind. Who are you, and why have you appeared here? Johan's vision cleared further. He realized he was standing atop a towering structure, a column-like building. He forced a smile. I could say I don't know why I'm here. Would you believe me? Oomph. Rayquaza snorted, its tone carrying a hint of laziness. Johan's keen observation as a Pokémon psychologist kicked in. Could it be that Rayquaza was bored? Perhaps it had just eaten and was ready for a nap. Did you eat the Millennium Comet, by any chance? Rayquaza, Johan began. Could it be that you're feeling lonely? Rayquaza froze, startled by the unexpected question. Johan continued. Why else would a powerful creature like you care so much about bonds with a chosen one? You yearn for companionship, don't you? Rayquaza's eyes narrowed as it let out a low growl, clearly displeased. Bold human. Johan smirked inwardly. He had struck a nerve. Let me guess, you're looking for someone like Aster, the original lorekeeper? Rayquaza's body tensed slightly. A companion. A friend. That's what you're really seeking. Johan decided to push further. What if I told you I might know where to find another Rayquaza? Rayquaza paused mid-movement, its crimson eyes betraying a flicker of curiosity. Another Rayquaza? Johan referenced the ancient hero story, where a black Rayquaza appeared as one of the 6 Pokémon in the hero's team. Think about it, Johan said. You wouldn't have to be alone anymore. Rayquaza snorted and turned away, feigning disinterest. Foolish human, I need no such help. Suddenly, Johan's surroundings began to blur. Rayquaza's misty form faded into the clouds, its voice echoing faintly. If you wish to prove yourself, come to Sky Pillar and face my trials. With that, the vision ended. Johan found himself back at the campsite, holding the now dim shard. He felt utterly drained, as if the shard had consumed all his aura energy. Kaka. Gengar waved a hand in front of Johan's face. Are you okay? Did you see a ghost or something? Johan glared at Gengar. Ghosts? I take that over what I just saw. Gengar scratched its head, puzzled. Johan turned to Dragonair and handed it the shard. Here, try eating it. Dragonair blinked in confusion, but obediently took the shard. After a moment, it spat it out, shaking its head. Too hard. Couldn't digest it. Johan sighed. Figures. Their journey to the battle frontier concluded, and the matter of Jirachi had come to a close. Looking back, Johan felt the trip had been incredibly rewarding. Beyond the financial gains and the valuable materials and tools acquired, the most meaningful reward was the bond of friendship they had forged, a connection that would endure through time, becoming a beautiful and irreplaceable part of their lives. Johan silently wished for Jirachi to sleep soundly and for their own days ahead to be smooth and bright. As they flew back to Rustboro City aboard Steven's private jet, Johan pulled out a small wrapped gift. "NDD, this is for you too," he said, handing over a pair of evolutionary stones to the sibling Pokémon. Indy. Indy. / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / newsflash. The siblings expressed their gratitude in their own ways. The sister excitedly, the brother shyly. Johan often brought back gifts for the NDD duo whenever he returned from his trips. Sometimes it was food, other times clothes, and this time it was the most expensive gift yet. For the two, the price of the gift wasn't what mattered. It was the thought behind it that warmed their hearts and gave them extra motivation in their daily tasks. With the NDD siblings managing the household, Johan always returned to a clean and welcoming home. After Johan's victory in the Battle Frontier and the success of his live streams, the popularity of his cafe skyrocketed. The buzz even gave rise to a humorous urban legend. Many fans speculated that the cafe itself was a hidden facility or bonus stage of the Battle Frontier, where challengers faced the cafe's incredibly strong NDD duo. The so-called gods of the Battle Cafe had become a regional myth, drawing challengers from far and wide. Johan joked to himself that, sooner or later, overzealous hunters would come after the NDD siblings. That would be the perfect opportunity to take their Pokeballs back and free them entirely. One snowy Wednesday, Johan sat in his backyard, flipping through books sent by Karen and Fitzwilliam while enjoying a new coffee blend crafted by the younger NDD. Johan's eyes lit up as he took a sip. The coffee was perfectly balanced, rich without being overly acidic, with a smooth texture and a lingering sweetness. Your coffee-making skills are really something, he mused, smiling as he glanced at the hard-working Pokémon scattered across the yard. The Pokémon were deep into their training routines. Johan marveled at their determination. You just got back yesterday, and you're already this focused? Take Gengar, for instance. It stood with its arms crossed, forming a seal with its hands. With a tremble, two shadowy duplicates emerged from its body. Johan chuckled. Your shadow clone technique is getting pretty refined. Gengar smirked proudly. The Pokémon had made a silent promise to Jirachi. They would work hard, grow stronger, and help Johan overcome any challenges, no matter how daunting. Dragonair, Johan called, turning to another of his Pokémon. Dragonair was coiled around a damp tree, gently shedding a thin layer of skin. Feeling all right? No discomfort? Johan asked. Dragonair shook its head, slithering over to nuzzle Johan's cheek. Its freshly shed skin was soft and warm to the touch. You feel a bit chubby lately. Pouting, Dragonair slithered off to train harder. Johan then turned his attention to Charadet, who was sitting cross-legged, appearing to meditate. Charadet, you doing okay? Goka. Charadet scratched its head, then rubbed its stomach. It looked around before pulling out a chunk of wood and crunching on it like a snack. Sparks flared brighter from its flames as it munched. Johan stared, exasperated. I don't know why I even bother. At that moment, NDD's sister entered the yard. She gestured for Johan to come inside, saying someone was here to see him. To Johan's surprise, it was Martin. Director Martin, what brings you here? Johan greeted him. Martin chuckled. I'm here on behalf of the old principal. I've also got a couple of coffees to order. Something from the principal? Martin carefully pulled a weathered scroll from his bag. The material seemed to be made of some sort of animal hide. What's this? Johan asked. The principal pulled some strings to get this from the Paldea region. He said it would be useful to you. Once you read it, you'll understand. With that, Martin handed over the scroll, ordered his coffee, and departed. Back in the backyard, Johan delicately unrolled the ancient scroll. The contents left him speechless. Etched on the scroll were intricate drawings of 2 suits of armor, alongside detailed instructions for their construction. One set was the blessing armor, and the other was the cursed armor. Gengar's eyes gleamed as it pointed excitedly at the latter. "Kaka!" it cried, hopping in place. "That one. I want that one." The scroll not only depicted the armors, but also detailed their component parts and crafting processes. The information was invaluable. The commotion drew the attention of Johan's other Pokémon. Kubfu, in particular, seemed deeply affected. "Ku!" Kubfu shouted, leaping into a fighting stance before demonstrating an energetic combo of punches. "Ku! Ku! This is it, the first step toward assembling an unstoppable army. And I'll lead the charge." Johan sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You're way too into this." As the Pokémon buzzed with excitement, Johan refocused on the scroll. "Bless that principal," he murmured. Knowing Johan had a Charadet, the principal must have foreseen the need for this armor. Rather than waiting for Johan to travel to Paldea, he had sent the crafting instructions. That said, would it have killed them to send the actual armor? Johan muttered. While the methods were here, the materials and tools were not. He thought of the craftsmen in the Pokémon world, like the hero in Pokémon Adventures who specialized in creating tools and weapons for his team. That level of craftsmanship wasn't something Johan possessed. But he glanced at Tinkaton. Its twin ponytails swayed as it studied the scroll with bright eyes. "Maybe I don't have the skills," Johan mused aloud, "but Tinkaton might." The next challenge was sourcing materials. The armors required rare wood that was resistant to flames or had been tempered by special fire. For the cursed armor, wood imbued with ghostly or spiritual qualities was preferred. Where am I supposed to find that? Johan muttered, glancing at Rotom. "Rotom, any ideas?" Rotom blinked, its screen flickering nervously. "Rotom, you're the tech whiz. Think you can find where to get this kind of wood?" After a moment of frantic searching, Rotom's screen lit up. "Found it, Rotom." The answer appeared on the screen. Ikrutik City, Johto region. The Bell Tower and Burn Tower both fit the criteria. Johan stared at the result. Am I seriously about to wreck Hoa's old stomping grounds? Although Johan had learned from Rotom that Ikrutik City in Johto might have the materials he needed, he wasn't in a hurry to travel there. Having just returned from the battle frontier, there was no reason to rush. Charadet wasn't at the point of needing to evolve yet. Besides, after so many battles at the frontier, it was time for some relaxation and review. So, Johan spent 3 lazy, peaceful days in Rustboro City before boarding a flight to Goldenrod City in Johto. Goldenrod City, Johto. As Johto's largest and most bustling metropolis, Goldenrod City could be compared to Saffron City in Kanto. When Johan and his Pokémon stepped off the plane at the Goldenrod City airport, the city's liveliness immediately struck them. For Johan, this was his first time visiting Goldenrod, and most of his impressions of the city were rooted in its portrayal in the games. For instance, the iconic radio tower, once occupied by Team Rocket, now operated normally, frequently hosting Professor Oak for broadcasts on Pokémon, along with some baffling poetry. And then there was Whitney's gym, where her infamous Miltank had left Johan with some vivid childhood memories of defeat. Whitney's family's Moo Moo Milk Ranch is on the outskirts of Goldenrod, Johan mused aloud. If we have time, maybe we'll visit. For now, though, Johan and his Pokémon took the maglev train from Goldenrod to Ikrutik City. Ikrutik City. Johto and Kanto are adjacent regions, separated only by the Silver Mountain Range. Traveling between them by plane was expensive and inconvenient. To solve this, the League constructed a maglev line connecting Goldenrod City and Saffron City, running under the Silver Mountains. From this main line, branches extended to other cities in both regions. Ikrutik City lay to the north of Goldenrod and wasn't far, making the maglev an ideal way to travel. Mimikyu. Unbeknownst to Johan, a small shadowy figure was watching from the shadows. Its fiery orange eyes flickered with curiosity. Marshadao cocked its head. Johan had disappeared suddenly last time, leaving it confused. Now that the rainbow wing had reappeared in Johto, Marshadao had hurried back. Aboard the maglev, Johan and his Pokémon enjoyed a private first-class cabin for the short trip. "Let's eat something while we wait," Johan said, unpacking their lunch. Smelling the food, the Pokémon gathered eagerly. "Is Tinkaton still at it?" Johan asked, glancing at the corner. Sure enough, Tinkaton sat with a rolled-up scroll containing the instructions for crafting the celebratory and cursed armors. It had been studying the scroll with intense focus for 3 days, pausing only for meals, sleep, and training. "Tink." At Johan's call, Tinkaton reluctantly set the scroll down. "I know you're excited, but don't overdo it. Eat well and rest, or you won't have the energy to keep learning," Johan said, patting its head. Tinkaton nodded solemnly and grabbed its meal, immediately devouring it with enthusiasm. Nearby, Charadet shyly offered Tinkaton a sausage skewer. Tinkaton. Taking the skewer, Tinkaton smiled. They were partners and had no need for formalities. Kaka. Gengar, ever the joker, grinned and suggested that once Tinkaton mastered the craft, it could forge a matching set of armor for itself and Charadet. Johan shook his head, amused. As the train sped toward a critique, Johan prepared a coffee, with Charadet boiling the water and Ninetales chilling it into iced coffee. "It's good to have helpers," Johan chuckled, sipping his drink. Several hours later, they arrived in a critique city. Immediately, Johan and his Pokémon noticed the stark contrast between the city's serene, traditional atmosphere and Goldenrod's modernity. Critique City was a cultural and historical treasure, its streets lined with wooden architecture reminiscent of a bygone era. The city's most iconic landmarks were the Bell Tower to the east and the Burn Tower to the northwest. Since the train station was closer to the Burn Tower, Johan decided to visit it first. The Burn Tower. "Oh," Ninetales whimpered softly as they approached the blackened ruins of the Burn Tower. Though it couldn't explain why, the tower seemed to radiate an air of sorrow and tragedy. Originally called the Brass Tower, it was paired with the Bell Tower to symbolize harmony between humans and Pokémon, Johan began. Legend says that it was one of Lugia's resting places. Built 700 years ago, the two towers symbolized the bond between humans and Pokémon. But 150 years ago, a lightning strike ignited a fire that engulfed the Brass Tower, trapping 3 Pokémon inside. Though humans marveled at the storm and fire, none tried to save the Pokémon. The fire raged for 3 days and nights. Finally, Ho-Oh descended, extinguished the flames, and revived the 3 Pokémon, transforming them into Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, the fabled guardians of Ho-Oh. Ever since that day, both Lugia and Ho-Oh have left a critique, never to return. Johan finished recounting the tale, and his Pokémon listened intently. "Let's go in and have a look." Though most of the tower had collapsed, leaving only the ground floor and part of the first story, its charred remains exuded a haunting presence. As they stepped inside, the air seemed to grow heavier. On a distant mountaintop outside a critique, a flame-wreathed figure stirred. A gentle snort sent a weak Pokémon scurrying to safety as the creature turned its golden gaze toward the Burn Tower. Its fiery mane flickered with a faint golden hue, mirroring its rising curiosity. Inside the Burn Tower, a sudden burst of flames erupted around Johan and his Pokémon, encircling them in an intense blaze. "Ooh!" Ninetales looked at Johan, unalarmed. "Kaka." Gengar floated upward, grinning mischievously. With a wave of its arms, the fiery glow shifted to an eerie blue, casting the tower in an otherworldly light. In the shadows, a wild Gengar, unaware of Johan's presence, let out a startled cry as it caught sight of the spectral flames. "Kaka! Ghost!" It bolted toward the exit, crashing into a young man with blonde hair and scarf. Gengar, what's going on now? The man sighed, rubbing his temple. But the panicked Gengar clung to his arm, pointing back toward the tower. Kaka, there's a ghost inside. Morty, you are? Morty's gaze swept past Gengar to see Johan, standing inside the burned tower. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. Professor Johan? You know me, Gym Leader Morty? Johan was equally surprised. Morty chuckled and said, I recently watched your speedrun live streams of the Battle Frontier. Your Gengar's 45 consecutive victories at the Battle Tower left quite the impression. As a fellow trainer specializing in Ghost-type Pokémon, Morty naturally paid close attention to this. Johan smiled in realization. It seemed his Gengar had gained some fame, even among experts like Morty. So, Professor Johan, are you here in a Crutique City to collect the gym badge? Morty asked. Did Morty really just use the word collect? That phrasing was a little too apt. No, we're just here as tourists, Johan replied with a laugh. Morty looked slightly disappointed. As a Ghost-type trainer, he had hoped to battle Johan. Meanwhile, Gengar was busy. Kaka. Morty's Gengar finally realized that the figure that had startled it earlier was another Gengar. Curiosity sparked in its eyes as it looked at Johan's Gengar. The two purple troublemakers stared at each other, their grins identical. Morty's Gengar looked intrigued, while Johan's Gengar's grin carried a playful tease. Suddenly, thunk! A scorched wooden plank fell from somewhere inside the decrepit burn tower. Without missing a beat, Johan's Gengar darted over to the fallen piece of wood. It stepped on the plank, crossing its arms and tilting its head upward at a dramatic 45-degree angle, as if whistling nonchalantly. The problem? Though Gengar was hefty, its feet weren't very large. The wooden plank beneath it was much bigger, leaving most of it visible. Morty's Gengar walked over, glancing down at the exposed plank and then up at Johan's Gengar. Its expression grew comically puzzled. Kaka. Johan's Gengar growled lowly at Morty's Gengar, adopting a mock-ferocious look. Don't look at me like that, or I'll knock you out. Johan had explained earlier that the burned tower, despite its damaged state, was protected by the Pokémon League as a historical structure. They couldn't just take anything from it. Since they couldn't pry anything loose, Gengar figured they could only wait for something to fall on its own. And now, such a perfect piece had fallen. How could it resist? Morty couldn't help but notice. Professor Johan, what is your Gengar doing? Johan covered his face with his hand. Long story short, here's the deal. He gave a brief rundown of their visit to a Crutique and their purpose, finding Burnwood imbued with spectral or fiery energy. Morty listened with interest. He didn't press for further details about what the wood was for, as that was clearly Johan's business. I see. Wood that has been burned and retained some ghost or fire energy, Morty murmured, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. If that's all you need, there's plenty in my gym. Johan blinked. Morty smiled. The burned tower frequently sheds charred pieces of wood over time. I've been collecting them at my gym for years. No wonder the burned tower seems so clean, Johan thought. He had initially expected the place to be littered with charred debris and figured they could simply gather what they needed. Instead, the tower was clean despite its age, its floors clear of scattered wood or rubble. Morty had evidently beaten them to it. At that moment, one of Johan's Pokeballs clicked open. Goka! Charadet appeared beside him, tugging on Johan's pants and gesturing toward a corner of the tower. What is it? Johan asked. Goka. Charadet gestured again, motioning for him to follow. Then it dashed toward the deeper parts of the burned tower. Although the tower's upper floors were mostly collapsed, its ground level and basement were still intact enough to traverse. Charadet led them cautiously down creaking stairs that groaned with every step. They arrived at a dimly lit corner of the basement. The air was heavy with ash and soot, faintly laced with an eerie chill. Charadet stopped before a scorched wooden pillar. Embedded in it was a jagged, palm-sized shard of wood, clinging precariously to the beam. It seemed ready to fall at any moment. Wait, is that? Johan narrowed his eyes, noticing a faint glow, a nearly imperceptible flicker of fire still smoldering within the shard. Even after over 100 years, some vestige of flame lingered, defying time itself. What's more, this sliver of flame seemed to carry traces of life. Morty stared in astonishment. The flame is still alive? His disbelief was evident. Although Morty often visited the burned tower, he rarely ventured into its basement due to safety concerns. He never imagined something like this had endured. Heavy footsteps echoed as Johan and Morty examined the shard. Caca. Johan's Gengar strutted around the basement, loudly humming as if taking a casual stroll. Morty's Gengar, intrigued, mimicked its behavior. What are they doing? Morty asked, perplexed. Johan sighed. Gengar said it's just stretching its legs. Don't worry, it won't damage anything. Charadet, however, wasn't about to miss the fun. Goka. It joined the Gengar duo, marching in exaggerated steps. Ooh. Watching this spectacle, Ninetales blinked in realization. It flicked its tail to nudge one of Johan's Pokeballs. Thud! A heavy sound reverberated through the basement. Cha! Tinkaton appeared, hammer in hand, surveying her surroundings with curiosity. Understanding the situation, Tinkaton grinned, adjusted her grip on her hammer, and joined the procession. Unlike Gengar's and Charade's lighter steps, Tinkaton's movements were anything but subtle. Thud! 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 Her hammer struck the ground with each step, causing faint tremors. Dust and ash began to rain down from the fragile ceiling. Morty looked alarmed. The stairs will collapse if this keeps up. Fortunately, Tinkaton's heavy steps soon had the desired effect. Clatter! Clatter! Pieces of charred wood fell from the pillar, including the shard carrying the faint ember. Johan's Gengar caught the shard with a smug grin. Caca. You saw that, right? It fell on its own. Not my fault. Morty stared, speechless. Back at the gym, Johan inspected Morty's collection of charred wood. Your Gengar. Morty began, his tone uncertain. What about it? Johan asked, confused. Morty hesitated. Is it always like this? Johan shrugged. Isn't that just how Gengar are? For Johan, his Gengar, and even elite 4-member Agathas, behaved in much the same way. On their way to the gym, Morty silently reflected on his own approach to training Gengar. Unlike Johan, who embraced Gengar's mischievous nature and guided it toward balance, Morty often tried to suppress his Gengar's antics. Watching Johan and his team, Morty couldn't help but smile wryly. Professor Johan truly lives up to his reputation as a Pokémon psychologist. I've learned something new today. Johto region, a critique gym. Johan Sensei, I've gathered most of the wood chips here for you. Morty led Johan and his team into a battle arena within the critique gym. In the corner of the arena was a large wooden crate filled with broken wood chips, stacked to the brim. Around the area, numerous Ghastly and Haunter were floating about, buzzing with activity. Because Ghastly and Haunter really like these, I kept them near the battlefield for their training, Morty explained. He also told Johan that if he needed the wood chips, he could take as many as he wanted. After all, they were originally discarded materials that Morty had simply collected. Well, if you insist, Johan replied casually, but as soon as he turned, he noticed Tinkaton lifting the crate and getting ready to leave. Tinkaton, put it down. Leave the crate here. Johan called out. Cha! Realizing the mistake, Tinkaton dropped the crate with a loud bang, startling the nearby Ghastly and Haunter. Though it was small and cute, Tinkaton radiated an intimidating aura. Johan just waved it off. This happens all the time. After all, it was just with chips. If Morty had offered a crate of metal, Tinkaton would have hammered it into its weapon on the spot, skipping the need to carry it at all. Johan Sensei, I have a request, Morty said hesitantly. Johan seemed to guess Morty's thoughts and asked, a battle? In the Pokemon world, when trainers meet and click, they battle. When trainers meet and don't click, they still battle. Thus, when a trainer opens their mouth, 9 times out of 10, it's about a battle. Johan didn't particularly mind. He had collected the badges in Kanto to participate in the Indigo League and win the prize money. As for Johto, even if he gathered all the badges, the Silver Conference was still far away. However, Seeing Morty's sincerity, Johan felt it would be rude to refuse, especially after stepping into Morty's gym. Yes, Morty nodded. The uniqueness of Gengar made him curious about the difference between Johan's training style and his own. Different trainers create different Pokémon. Through battle, both sides could learn something new. Morty added with a smile, "It doesn't have to be a Gengar battle. We can keep it simple, just a 1v1 match without worrying about the outcome." "Not a Gengar battle?" Johan nodded. "All right, the rules are simple. Each side uses one Pokémon. The battle ends when one Pokémon can no longer fight," the referee announced. This sounded more like an official match than a casual sparring session. "Let's do this." Morty threw out a Pokeball without hesitation. Amidst the red light, a gray and black Pokémon with crimson eyes, resembling a plush doll with a zipper mouth, appeared on the battlefield. Banette, the marionette Pokémon, ghost type. It was originally an ordinary plush doll filled with hatred and curses, becoming a powerful Pokémon. Rotom's voice whispered from behind Johan. On Johan's side, the Pokémon stepping forward was Goka. Charadet walked confidently into the arena. Initially, Johan had hesitated about who to send out, but Charadet volunteered, insisting that this journey was about it proving itself. Johan relented. On the sidelines, Morty's Gengar, "Your buddy is doomed. Banette is formidable. It hates seeing trainers and Pokémon who are close." Johan's Gengar, "Oh really? Then your gym is doomed. Charadet hates it when people don't show it respect." At first glance, it sounded like both Gengar were cheering for their teammates. But Morty's Gengar paused, realizing something was off. "Why are we the ones who were doomed now? On the battlefield. Curse!" Banette's crimson eyes gleamed with a ghostly purple light as it used its Frisk ability to inspect Charadet's held item. Frisk allows a Pokémon to detect its opponent's held item. Banette detected Charadet holding charcoal, 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 charcoal. Huh? Morty blinked in confusion. Was Banette's Frisk broken? Johan sighed, rubbing his forehead. Ahem. Even if multiple identical items are carried, only one can take effect. Still, why did Banette detect so many? Was it because Charadet was made of charcoal? Or did consumed charcoal count? "Let the battle begin," the referee declared, dropping the flag. Banette, use Trick. Morty commanded decisively. Trick swaps the held items of two Pokémon. Curse. Banette's zipper-like mouth opened, releasing a strange blue energy that enveloped itself and Charadet. Under this energy's influence, Banette and Charadet swapped their items. Banette received Charadet's charcoal, while Charadet got Banette's Choice Scarf. Choice Scarf boosts speed by 50%, but locks the user into their first chosen move. Typical of a ghost-type trainer, Morty was playing dirty. Johan was glad he hadn't let Charadet attack immediately. Now that Charadet was holding the Choice Scarf, selecting the right move was crucial. Then again, Charadet wasn't Gengar. It didn't need complicated strategies. Charadet used Flamethrower. Goka. Charadet clasped its arms together, unleashing an enormous wave of fire. Its entire body turned a bright red from the intense heat. Banette dodged with Sucker Punch. Banette darted to the side with incredible speed, narrowly avoiding the raging flames. Boom! Half the battlefield turned pitch black from the scorching fire. Morty's Gengar widened its eyes. Now it understood what Johan's Gengar meant. Morty, meanwhile, was dumbfounded. "You call that Flamethrower?" Banette used Thunder Wave. Banette moved behind Charadet and unleashed a golden, static-filled current. "Charadet, ignite yourself." Johan countered. Boom! Charadet burst into flames, blocking the paralyzing current with its fiery aura. Though the Choice Scarf restricted its moves, it didn't limit its natural abilities. Banette, Phantom Force. Banette unzipped a spectral portal on the ground and disappeared. Charadet, close your eyes and trust your instincts, Johan calmly instructed. Goka. Charadet shut its eyes, releasing its inner aura. As it honed its senses, a fiery glow flickered in its eye sockets. Moments later, it reopened its eyes, locking onto Banette's location. Johan smiled. "Trust yourself. Flamethrower. Charadet self-confidence transformed into sheer power. The flames around its body retracted, focusing into its arms, which glowed like molten metal. A searing torrent of fire erupted. Before Banette could fully emerge from the portal, it was consumed by the inferno. Curse! Banette fell, fainted, before it even had the chance to counterattack. The battle was over. Morty stood there, mouth agape. What did I even learn from this? Johan smirked. Sometimes, the best way to counter tricky strategies is brute force. Morty's Gengar gulped, nervously eyeing the burnt wall of the gym. That's real firepower. Charadet exhaled deeply, its fiery confidence unshaken. Just then, both Johan and Charadet sensed a heavy presence. The wall crumbled further, revealing a towering Pokémon with fiery orange fur, majestic white mane, and a six-pointed red star on its face. It was Entei, the volcano Pokémon. The legendary beast, Entei. It is said in legends that only righteous trainers can encounter the legendary Entei. Otherwise, Entei's sacred flames will burn everything in their path. Clearly, Morty, who had just used underhanded battle tactics, was not the righteous trainer this legend referred to. Morty's gaze shifted between Johan and Entei, and a realization dawned on him. Entei must have come for Johan Sensei, a trainer deeply connected to his Pokémon. Even from a distance, Morty could feel the scorching heat radiating from Entei. Yet Johan, standing much closer and facing Entei directly, seemed calm and unfazed. As expected, Johan Sensei has earned Entei's approval, Morty thought to himself. Little did he know, the real reason Johan wasn't feeling the heat was thanks to the Ice Ninetales standing protectively in front of him. Ooh! Ice Ninetales glared at Entei with an icy expression, bringing all this heat right at the start. What are you trying to do? Entei's deep, piercing eyes stared directly at Johan. At the same time, Johan felt the rainbow feather in his pocket begin to stir. Taking a deep breath, he muttered, "Can I borrow a flame, Morty?" Entei's expression turned solemn. Its mouth opened slightly, and a wave of heat surged forward. Goku! Charadet stepped forward, standing in front of Johan. Despite the intense heat, it declared boldly, "Show me some respect." Entei paused, slightly surprised. It carefully examined Charadet, whose earnest demeanor was unmistakably genuine. After a moment, Entei nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Kaka! Morty's Gengar stared in disbelief. Good grief. Even Entei gives this little guy face? Charadet nodded back, and flames burst forth from its body. Its previously normal coloring turned fiery red again. Entei's mane began to ripple as heat waves surged in response. This is... Morty wiped the sweat dripping from his forehead. Johan Sensei is really going to fight Entei here? Johan, too, was momentarily taken aback. Wait, does giving face mean we're about a duel? Looking at Charadet's determined posture, it was clear it wanted a one-on-one showdown with Entei. Johan could only sigh internally. This kind of respect is worse than nothing at all. In the shadows, a small figure slipped quietly from the darkness, observing Johan, Charadet, and Entei with curious eyes. It was Marshadao, but given the current situation, no one noticed its appearance. Listen up, Johan whispered to his Pokémon companions. If Entei decides to play dirty, well, then we won't play fair either. On my command, we'll all pile on and take it down. Realistically, they stood little chance, even as a group, and not even Mega Evolving Gengar would tip the odds in their favor. But dignity was dignity. If things went south, they'd throw a few hits and make a run for it. Kaka! Gengar and the others nodded in agreement. Gar! Entei raised its head slightly, unleashing waves of heat as flames began to rise. Charadet, though clearly outmatched in aura, refused to back down. Goku! Charadet let out a deep roar, flames erupting more fiercely from its body than during its previous battle with Banette. Ice Ninetales support. Cubfu guided. Johan commanded as he focused his aura powers. Entei, a legendary beast, Was bullying an unevolved Charadet? Then don't blame me for bending the rules. Johan channeled his aura into Charadet, strengthening its body. The flames on Charadet's body grew hotter and brighter, and its reddish hue intensified. Sure, this kind of tactic would be illegal in an official league battle. But here, rules didn't matter. Charadet, Johan shouted. Go! Charadet let out a deafening roar as its flames surged to unprecedented heights. If one observed closely, the flames on Charadet's body pulsed rhythmically, like water rippling in sync with its breathing. Morty gasped audibly. Killing intent? Had Johan and Charadet been holding back earlier? The showdown began. Boom! Entei unleashed a torrent of flames, and Charadet retaliated by unleashing every ounce of firepower it had. The rainbow feather in Johan's pocket and the scattered red fragments from the burned tower seemed to dim slightly under the intense heat. The two fiery forces collided head-on. Boom! 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 The energy clash was so intense that Morty's Gengar twitched nervously. This time, the gym might really collapse. Johan held his breath. Seriously? A firepower duel? Which way should I even dodge? The entire gym trembled under the collision of energy. The already damaged wall disintegrated completely, and loose debris was vaporized instantly. The chaos erupted quickly but subsided just as fast. When the flames finally cleared, all that remained was scorched ground. In the center of the battlefield, Charadet knelt on one knee, bracing itself with its arms and gasping for air. Its flames had dimmed, and its body was visibly weakened. On the other side, Entei stood tall and majestic, yet its gaze toward Charadet carried a hint of respect. Roar! Golden flames flared around Entei. Ka-ka! Gengar shouted furiously. Oh, so you still want more? Let's all gang up on you. Just as the group prepared to charge, Entei moved. But instead of attacking, Entei's golden flames engulfed Charadet. Surprisingly, the flames caused no harm. Instead, they seeped into Charadet's body, healing its injuries. Moments later, Charadet stood up, fully recovered, with no sign of its previous exhaustion. A faint golden light flickered where its wounds had been. The flames of life? Entei's blessing. Morty exclaimed, his eyes wide. Entei's blessing? Johan pondered. Similar to Suikun's blessing of the north wind. So, this battle had essentially been a test. Entei was testing Charadet, and now it seemed to have acknowledged Charadet's worth. Ka-ka. Understanding the situation, Gengar patted Charadet's shoulder with a grin. Good thing it didn't try anything foolish. Entei nodded at Charadet and then cast a deep glance at Johan before preparing to leave. Wait, Entei! Johan called out, causing Entei to pause and glance back. Clearing his throat, Johan said, I wasn't kidding earlier. Can I borrow a flame? He gestured toward the corner of the gym, where a crate of wood chips sat. Entei, Goka, Charadet chimed in. Entei rolled its eyes in exasperation. For the first time, it had encountered a trainer and Pokémon pair who shamelessly pushed their luck. Reluctantly, Entei opened its mouth and released a stream of golden-red flames toward the crate. Whoosh! The flames consumed the crate instantly, leaving most of the wood chips in ashes. Only a few pieces remained, glowing faintly with embers akin to those at the base of the burned tower. As expected, these wood chips carried a connection to the flames of life. Thanks, Johan said as he turned back, only to find that Entei had already disappeared. Left in such a hurry, Johan muttered. Looking at the ruined gym, Johan quickly realized something. Gym leader Morty, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for things to get this bad. Morty wiped the sweat from his forehead and waved his hand dismissively. No need to apologize, Johan-sensei. Damages caused during gym battles are my responsibility as the gym leader. After all, it had been his suggestion to challenge Johan in the first place. As for Entei, for someone passionate about the burned tower and the legendary beasts, seeing Entei was worth any price. By the way, Morty said, handing Johan the fog badge and a TM for Phantom Force. Please accept these. Johan accepted them without hesitation. Next stop, Bell Tower. Johto region, Ikrutik City. Nighttime. Johan and Morty, along with their Pokémon, visited the Ikrutik Dance Theater to watch the Kimono Girls perform. To say the least, the EVs were absolutely dazzling. They were stunningly white and unbelievably cute. The dance theater was most famous for the 5 Kimono Sisters of Ikrutik, each owning a different evolution of Eevee: Flareon, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Umbreon, and Espeon. The performances were clearly reminiscent of Pokémon contests in their elegance and style. After the dances concluded, the theater invited audience members on stage for battles with the Kimono Sisters, allowing them to choose one of the EV evolutions to challenge. Whether they won or lost, participants would receive small prizes from the theater, a tradition that had become one of its most iconic attractions. Johan, however, was not particularly interested. If the prizes were evolution stones, he would have been more enthusiastic, but clearly, giving out evolution stones every time would bankrupt the theater. Occasionally offering them as special rewards was enough to draw in large audiences. This, Johan thought, was yet another reminder of how much Pokémon battles pervaded this world. Even a dance theater had to include Pokémon battles to keep the crowds coming. After the show, Johan returned to the Pokémon Center in Ikrutik City with his companions to rest for the night. The next morning, Johan groggily opened his eyes, then quickly shut them again, mumbling, "Rotom, what time is it?" "It's 6:30 a.m., Rotom." Hovering mid-air, the Rotom Pokédex cheerfully continued. Today's weather in Ikrutik City is sunny, with a mild east wind at level 3. It's a great day for sightseeing, Rotom. 6:30, huh? Johan rubbed his eyes, burying his face into Ice Ninetales' soft fur. The cool sensation instantly jolted him awake. He couldn't deny it. After evolving, Ice Ninetales had not only grown stronger in its Ice-type abilities, but had also gained greater control over its powers. The uncontrollable chill it used to emit had been significantly reduced. Uwu. The little one puffed up its cheeks, clearly displeased at having its sleep interrupted. Johan chuckled. "Rotom, play a song." "Right away, Rotom." Soon, an intense rock song boomed from the Rotom Pokédex, with electrifying vocals and sharp rhythms energizing the team in no time. Uwu. Ice Ninetales stretched gracefully, its sleek body and 9 elegant tails unfurling as it rose. After everyone freshened up and started their morning routines, Johan noticed something odd. The normally peppy little Pokémon seemed melancholic. "Hold on, Rotom," Johan called. "Whose song are you playing?" Rotom displayed a photo of a rock band on its screen, a lead singer alongside for Pokémon bandmates. The Pokémon were a drummer Rillaboom, a guitarist Toxtricity, amped form, a bassist Toxtricity, low-key form, and a co-vocalist Obstagoon. "It's the Galar region's Spike Myth band, Rotom. The lead singer is the melancholy Nessa, Rotom." Johan. No wonder. A rock band singing emo songs? That tracks. You know, Johan mused, if anyone can sing, it's Meowth. He hummed a bit. "Aoe, Aoe." Wasn't that how it went? "Maybe we should get Meowth to go solo again," Johan joked. "Singing, acting in movies and TV shows. Meowth might just become a triple threat celebrity." Johan shook his head and filed the idea away for later. After breakfast, Johan took his Pokémon to the free training grounds behind the Pokémon Center for some light practice. Later, he met up with Morty, and the two set off together for Bell Tower. On the way to Bell Tower. To reach Bell Tower, they first had to walk through Chime Path. Lined with trees that glowed a permanent autumnal gold, Chime Path was home to many lively wild Pokémon. The warm hues of the leaves created a serene and uplifting atmosphere, making it a popular spot for tourists visiting Ikrutik City. Of course, the real draw of Chime Path was its end, the sacred Bell Tower. Ordinary people couldn't enter Bell Tower, but Johan and Morty were on a special mission. At Bell Tower's base, a monk in gray and white robes was sweeping the steps leading to the tower. When he saw the two trainers, he paused, bowed respectfully, but said nothing. Johan couldn't help but give the monk a second glance. As everyone knows, the person sweeping the entrance of a major temple or shrine is never an ordinary individual. Gengar, meanwhile, found the monk's actions amusing. Kaka. Gengar mimicked the monk's bow, folding one hand in front of itself and bending slightly at the waist. The monk paused, clearly caught off guard. Though his rigorous training typically kept him composed, he couldn't suppress a faint smile. Your Pokémon has a strong connection to the Buddha, the monk said with a serene nod. Johan raised an eyebrow. A ghost like Gengar, connected to the Buddha? That's a strange image. Gengar, on the other hand, was loving the attention. It bowed again. Kaka, why thank you. No one was actually praising you. Johan thought. Inside Bell Tower. The Bell Tower was much larger than Johan had expected. Even the first floor felt vast and open. Thanks to Morty's connections, Johan, acknowledged as someone who had earned Entei's favor, was granted access to the upper floors after a brief check of his identity. As they climbed the creaky wooden stairs, they passed monks on every level. Some were meditating, others studying ancient texts, yet none seemed to pay the visitors much mind. Wild Pokémon roamed freely throughout the tower as well, which Morty explained was by design. The Bell Tower, like the Burn Tower, had been built to celebrate the harmony between humans and Pokémon. It welcomed wild Pokémon to come and go as they pleased. Reaching the top floors, at the staircase between the 9th and 10th floors, Johan and Morty came across a large wooden carving. It depicted none other than the legendary Pokémon, Ho-Oh. Kaka. Gengar pointed at the carving excitedly. The one holding the camera, Morty. Johan sighed, rubbing his temples. Johan-sensei, have you seen Ho-Oh before? Morty asked, finally catching on. Morty's family had worshipped Ho-Oh for generations, which was one reason he was allowed access to Bell Tower. Yet even his ancestors hadn't seen Ho-Oh since it had left the tower. We encountered it once in Pallet Town, Johan explained. Morty's eyes lit up in understanding. No wonder Entei sought him out and granted him its blessing. And the camera thing? Morty asked. Johan coughed awkwardly. Don't worry about it. He quickly moved on. The top floor. On a large cushion sat an elderly monk with snow-white eyebrows cascading down to his shoulders. Two strong, muscular young monks stood at his sides, exuding an air of discipline. Honored elder, Morty greeted with a respectful bow, and Johan followed suit. Gengar, too, mimicked the motion. Kaka. The elder smiled warmly, his gaze lingering on Gengar. This little one is deeply connected to the Buddha, he said. Kaka. Gengar puffed up with pride, giving Johan a smug look. See? Even the old master says I'm great. Johan resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Morty explained Johan's request, and after hearing the story, the elder nodded toward one of the younger monks. The monk returned moments later, carrying a large, sturdy log. Thud! He placed it on the ground with a heavy thump. This wood, the elder said, comes from the very perch where Ho-Oh once rested. It is exactly what you seek. Before Johan could respond, the elder added, May I see the rainbow feather? Johan and Morty both froze. Morty was stunned that Johan had the rainbow feather. Johan, on the other hand, wondered how the elder even knew about it. Still, he retrieved the shimmering, multicolored feather from his pocket. Seeing it, the elder nodded knowingly. So vibrant, so full of life. You are truly someone who has earned Ho-Oh's recognition. The rainbow feather pulsed faintly, as if in agreement. The elder chuckled. Even the rainbow feather seems pleased with you. Johan laughed nervously, tucking the feather back into his pocket. The elder continued, This wood is yours. It once supported Ho-Oh itself, and should serve your needs well. Johan was surprised. That easy? No strings attached? He had been prepared to fight, or at least negotiate. Instead, they just handed him the wood. Even Gengar looked confused, scratching its head. No battle? The elder smiled knowingly. He had heard about the destruction at a critique gym the day before. Someone capable of clashing with Entei and earning its blessing wasn't someone he wanted testing the tower's durability. Go on, the elder said, dismissing them with a wave. As they left, Johan glanced at the massive log in Tinkaton's hands. If Ho-Oh ever returns and finds part of its tower missing, well, that would be a problem for future Johan. That's it. Johan was surprised by how smoothly things had gone. Leaving Bell Tower with the sacred wood in hand, he couldn't help but feel like the elder monk might have laid some kind of trap. But as it turned out, Johan was simply overthinking. Initially, he had expected to spend 3 or 4 days in a critique city. Instead, everything was resolved in just 2 days. Should I stop by Mahogany Town? Professor Oak had asked Johan during the Indigo League to check in on Price and see if he could offer any help. Johan hadn't forgotten, but he hadn't had the chance to visit Johto until now. With Mahogany Town just east of a critique city and accessible by maglev train, it seemed like a good time. Having made up his mind, Johan expressed his gratitude to Morty once again before leaving. Morty was polite enough to personally escort them to the station. Johto region, Mahogany Town. Mahogany Town was a quaint, tranquil settlement. Its population was small, and the slow pace of life made it quite comfortable. Were it not for Price's Mahogany Gym and the Lake of Rage, this town might not have drawn much attention at all. With Team Rocket having vacated the lake and the infamous red Gyarados captured by Lance, Mahogany Town had recently regained some vitality. So this is Mahogany Town, Johan remarked as he and his Pokémon stepped out of the maglev station. He couldn't help but think about Price's situation. It was a complicated matter. For starters, Johan couldn't be certain whether this world's Price mirrored his animated counterpart, who had shut himself off emotionally after losing his Piloswine, or if Price's trauma was instead related to the death of his Lapras. One thing was clear. This Price likely wasn't the masked man from the Pokémon Adventures manga. Or rather, this world probably didn't have a character as ridiculously overpowered as the masked man. Just showing up and offering to help would probably get me turned away, Johan mused, pulling out his phone. He decided to call Professor Oak for more information, at least to determine whether Price's change in personality was due to Piloswine or Lapras. Hello, Johan. Professor Oak's cheerful voice came through the phone. Professor Oak, I'm in Mahogany Town right now. Mahogany Town? Are you planning to challenge Price's gym? Didn't you ask me to check on Price when I had the chance? I did. Oh, right. Yes, I think I did. Johan. Ahaha. Sorry, I've been swamped with work at the lab, so I forgot. Suppressing the urge to roll his eyes, Johan asked for more details about Price's situation. Unfortunately, Professor Oak's response was less than helpful. I don't know much, actually. After I gave up being a trainer to focus on research, Price and I didn't talk for a long time. By the time I saw him again, he was already like that. As expected, Professor Oak wasn't exactly reliable. Hanging up, Johan briefly considered calling Karen of the Elite Four for insight. But he quickly dismissed the idea. One headache at a time. Getting 2 of them involved at once would be a duet of ice and ghosts. Kaka. Ooh. Gengar and Ice Ninetales both turned to him quizzically. Johan sighed. I wasn't talking about you two. Without wasting more time, he made his way toward the Mahogany Gym. When Johan arrived at the gym, he found the doors shut and a sign hanging on them that read, Gym leader is out. Gym temporarily closed. TCH. Johan clicked his tongue. Classic Price. Shuts down the gym whenever he feels like it. While other gym leaders worried about meeting performance requirements and passing league evaluations, Price seemed entirely unconcerned. If the league threatened to fire him, Price's likely response would be, fine. Fire me. The man hadn't even wanted to be an Elite Four member, let alone a mere gym leader. Kaka. What now? Gengar gestured. Johan adjusted his glasses. Nothing to do. Either it's bad luck for us or bad timing for Price. Fate is fate. Gengar rolled its eyes. And you call me dramatic? You just left Bell Tower and started talking like this. Kaka. What a waste of time. It's not a waste, Johan replied, shaking his head. Let's go have a picnic by the Lake of Rage. A picnic? Gengar and Ice Ninetales instantly perked up. Picnic time. The Lake of Rage. Situated north of Mahogany Town, the Lake of Rage wasn't far. Johan and his Pokémon took their time enjoying the scenery as they strolled toward the lake. When they arrived, the view was breathtaking. "Ka! What a massive lake!" Gengar exclaimed. The clear sky reflected on the shimmering water. The gentle rustling of trees in the wind and the occasional splash of a Magikarp leaping from the lake created a serene atmosphere. The Lake of Rage was Johto's largest freshwater lake, teeming with resources, primarily Magikarp. Legend had it that the lake was once a volcanic crater. After the volcano went dormant, a group of Gyarados brought torrential rain, turning the crater into a lake where they eventually settled. Fishermen working on the lake needed to tread carefully. Provoking an angry Gyarados, or worse, a group of them, was no joke. Johan found a shaded patch of grass near the lake, perfect for their picnic. He spread out a picnic blanket and released all his Pokémon. Coo! Cubfoot took a deep breath. Nature, it's so vast. Ka! Gengar stretched theatrically. The Lake of Rage, it's all water. Johan, you two are a perfect pair. Dra! The happiest of the bunch was Dragonair, who immediately dove into the water and swam gleefully. Gengar, not wanting to be left out, donned its goggles, took a deep breath, and leapt in with a splash. It began swimming in a flamboyant display, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly stroke. On the shore, Johan chuckled while watching Gengar, then turned to his other Pokémon. Charadet, heat some water for me. Goko, Ninetales, chill the milk. Woo! Nearby, Tinkaton sat quietly with a scroll in hand, while Cubfoot dozed off after a few punches. The soft warmth of the winter sun was truly relaxing. Johan prepped snacks and desserts, placing 7 energy cubes on the picnic blanket. He then made himself a cup of coffee, settling into his folding chair to bask in the sun. This is the life, Johan thought as he lazily sipped his coffee, admiring the distant mountain range that stretched across the horizon. In his mind, this was how trainers and Pokémon should live. Eating, lounging, and eating again. Someday, when I don't have to worry about money anymore, I'll pull a Master Rashi, buy an island, find a nice lady, and live quietly. After some time, Johan noticed something amiss. Where's Gengar? He scanned the lake and realized the mischievous ghost was nowhere to be seen. Johan wasn't worried about Gengar's safety. The cheeky Pokémon was smart enough to run if things got dangerous. What concerned Johan were the wild Pokémon of the lake. Ka! Charadet pointed toward the shoreline. There, a soaked Gengar waddled out of the water, happily removing its goggles. Beside it stood a plump, pale blue Pokémon with tiny eyes and a blank expression that rivaled a Slowpoke's. It was a Quagsire. Quagsire, the water fish Pokémon. A water and ground type, known for its easygoing and carefree nature, Rotom. Rotom Dex snapped a picture, though Quagsire's shadow didn't appear in the photo. Johan raised an eyebrow. What's with the Quagsire? Whoop-a-bo. Quagsire waved at Johan and his Pokémon. Johan hesitated for a moment before inviting it over. Why not? Join us for lunch. I made plenty. Ka! Gengar guided the clumsy Quagsire to the picnic area. The other Pokémon were initially curious, but quickly warmed up to their new guest, happily sharing food and energy cubes. Whoople. Quagsire's face lit up as it savored the curry. Eat as much as you like, Johan said with a smile. There's more if you're still hungry. Blushing slightly, Quagsire nodded and continued eating, clearly enjoying itself. As the group dined, a calm, yet icy voice interrupted them. So this is where you've wandered off to. Johan turned to see an elderly man in a wheelchair, pushed by a Jinx. The man had white hair, a scarf around his neck, and a stern expression. It was none other than Price, the Mahogany gym leader. Gym leader Price? Johan looked at Price, then at the Quagsire that had frozen mid-bite. So, this Quagsire actually belonged to Price? And Gengar. Johan had thought it had invited a wild Pokémon over to join their meal, but it turned out to be Price's Pokémon instead. So it's you, Price said. He recognized Johan, his sharp gaze sweeping over the Pokémon sitting around the picnic blanket and Johan himself, who was casually eating with them. Price's brows furrowed slightly. I thought you might have some potential, he said, his tone cold, but seeing how you interact with your Pokémon. He shook his head faintly. A trainer and their Pokémon shouldn't behave like this. Hearing this, Johan frowned. As expected, Price's illness ran deep. Come here. Whoopa. At Price's call, Quagsire obediently set its bowl down and prepared to return to his side. But the sight made Gengar, Ice Ninetales, and Johan's other Pokémon visibly upset. Quagsire had been eating so happily just now. Couldn't Price see that? Wasn't Quagsire his Pokémon? Why did it feel like he was treating it like a subordinate, not even letting it finish its meal? Johan, however, slowly relaxed his frown. Placing his bowl down, he rose and gave Price a slight bow out of respect for the elder. Then he asked, Gym Leader Price, in your opinion, how should trainers and Pokémon interact? If Johan had been stronger, he would have punched the old man on the spot. Not for himself, but for Price's Pokémon. Unfortunately, Johan was self-aware. He knew the gap between their strengths was vast. Thus, he chose a softer approach. At the very least, he wanted to understand whether Price's transformation had been caused by Piloswine's departure or Lapras's death. Price remained stone-faced as he regarded Johan. After a brief pause, he said flatly, a trainer is a human, and a Pokémon is a Pokémon. Two different creatures should not have too deep a bond. But your friends, Professor Oak and Karen of the Elite Four, don't seem to think that way, Johan countered. That's why I no longer keep in contact with them, Price replied coldly. Their philosophies differed, so they had gone their separate ways. Johan nodded, but didn't refute Price immediately. Instead, he asked, Price, you must have a reason for thinking this way, right? After all, most trainers have harmonious relationships with their Pokémon. It occurred to Johan that Paul and Reggie, before being redeemed, might have shared some of Price's views. Sure, most trainers and their Pokémon got along well, but there were always those who treated their Pokémon like tools. Like the trainer who had abandoned Ash's Charmander, for example. Price narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he had cut ties with Professor Oak and Karen, they had spoken highly of Johan, so Price didn't view him as a stranger. Plus, Price couldn't help but admire Johan's Ice Ninetales. If not, he wouldn't have let Professor Oak pass along that secret manual to Johan. After some deliberation, Price finally said, I once had 3 Pokémon. They were a Piloswine, and 2 Lapras named Laplace and Laplace. Huh, so he had all 3? As Price briefly recounted his story, Johan began to understand. In his youth, Price had been brash, much like Ash. During a reckless battle, he and Piloswine were both severely burned, and his other Pokémon were also gravely injured. One snowy night, Piloswine left him and never returned. While searching for Piloswine, Price experienced a series of unfortunate events, leading to the deaths of both of his Lapras. The consecutive losses devastated him. Price gave up on forming bonds with Pokémon entirely, choosing instead to maintain strict, emotionless training. Good grief. Johan couldn't help but be shocked after hearing the story. He had thought Price's bitterness stemmed either from Piloswine's departure or from the loss of his Lapras. But it was like combining the hardships of Price's animated and manga versions into one person's life. That's why, young man, take my advice, Price said solemnly. Don't form deep bonds with your Pokémon. In the end, you're the one who will suffer. Kaka, uwu. Johan's Pokémon all bared their teeth in protest. Sure, the old man's experiences sounded tragic, but projecting his pain onto others and discouraging them from bonding with their Pokémon, that didn't sit right. Price, however, ignored their reactions, his voice calm as he continued. Even without bonds, a trainer can train their Pokémon to be strong. Johan didn't deny this point. However, Gym Leader Price, have you ever considered this possibility? What you perceive as a lack of bonds is merely your perspective. It doesn't mean your Pokémon feel the same way. Johan stepped forward. Perhaps, in your Pokémon's eyes, you're the trainer they trust most. The bond exists, but you've chosen to ignore it. Otherwise, why would Price's Pokémon endure his rigorous training? Pokémon had feelings, too. Price blinked, momentarily taken aback. He glanced at the Quagsire by his side. Whoop up. Quagsire scratched its head with a silly grin. Then Price turned to the Jinx behind him, who was pushing his wheelchair. Jiran. Johan smiled faintly. Actually, I know one more thing. Before he could finish, Price cut him off with a frown. Young man, are you trying to teach me how to do things? Wait, was that how he interpreted it? Price snorted coldly. If you think I'm wrong, then battle me. If you win, I'll listen to what you have to say. Otherwise, He had already guessed that Johan had been sent by Professor Oak. Can't win. Johan spread his hands, speaking candidly. Price was decades older, and he was a renowned trainer whose strength was acknowledged by the Pokémon League. Fighting him would be, don't worry, Price said. I won't use my main team. Winning like that wouldn't mean much. In essence, Price wanted to show Johan that trainers didn't need bonds to make their Pokémon strong. Johan, on the other hand, hoped to change Price's perspective, or at least get him to reconsider his beliefs. This was a clash of ideologies, one that Pokémon battles could directly reflect. If Price won, it would prove his point. If Johan won, it would support his own. Kaka. Before Johan could reply, Gengar stepped forward, rolling up its non-existent sleeves. Let me at him. I'll teach him a lesson. Johan smiled. All right. He had wanted to punch this old man himself, but since Gengar was so eager, why not give it a shot? Price glanced at Gengar, then at Johan, before finally settling his gaze on Ice Ninetales for a moment. Let's make it a standard 3-on-3 rotational battle, Price said. Rotational? Johan had expected Price to suggest a no-holds-barred 3-on-3 battle. But looking at Price's wheelchair, Johan couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. My first Pokémon will be this one. As red light flashed, a massive Pokémon with a muscular body covered in brown fur and 2 curved tusks appeared before them. Mamoswine, the twin-tusk Pokémon. The evolved form of Piloswine. It was once thought to be extinct. Rotom. Kaka, you cheat. You said you wouldn't use your strongest, but you brought out this giant. Johan pulled Gengar back by the head. You don't understand, Johan muttered. The less evolved Price's Pokémon are, the scarier they get. If he sent out Swinub, we'd really be doomed. Mamoswine, huh? Kubfu, Johan called. Coo. Kubfu leapt forward with a grin, rolling into position before striking a fighting stance. Gripping its headband tightly, it declared itself ready to fight. Price's eyes flicked to Kubfu, his expression unreadable. Icicle Spear, he ordered. Gar! Mamoswine roared, shaking its fur. Shards of ice formed and shot toward Kubfu like spears. Johan's eyes narrowed. Time to show him. Kubfu, break them. Coo! Kubfu's fists glowed with dark red energy as it charged forward, smashing the icicles one by one. Bang! 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 Shards of ice scattered in all directions. Not bad, Price said, unfazed. Mamoswine, icicle crash. A massive icicle materialized above Kubfu, its formation so rapid that even Johan was impressed. The shard from the broken icicles were being used to condense this new attack. Time to sleep, Kubfu, Johan said calmly. Coo, Omega, ZZZ. Kubfu closed its eyes and fell asleep on the spot. Counter it, Johan shouted. Kubfu's body tensed as dark red energy flared up around it. Boom! The giant icicle crashed down, and though Kubfu winced in its sleep, it stood firm. Now double payback. Coo! With a surge of power, Kubfu launched itself like a cannonball, gathering all the energy it had endured into its fist. Johan's command rang out. Kubfu, dynamic punch. Price's brows furrowed. Johan's coordination with Kubfu was sharper than expected. Dynamic punch paired with counter, Price muttered before gesturing. Mamoswine, protect. Mamoswine raised a glowing green shield, bracing itself. But Johan's voice cut through. Break it, Kubfu. With Johan's aura flowing into Kubfu's punch, its attack became even more precise, the energy around its fist pulsating like ripples. With a deafening roar, Kubfu's punch struck Mamoswine's protect. Crack! Boom! The shield shattered instantly, and Kubfu's fist slammed into Mamoswine, sending the massive Pokémon flying. The ground shook as Mamoswine crashed into it. Price's frown deepened. Though his strategy had been sound and Mamoswine's reactions flawless, the outcome had still caught him off guard. Is this even reasonable?
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500-plus novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.